This weekend at WP, PS5, teacher, mother, secret lover.
Come in and put your weary feet up. Come in and gently close the door. Our time will leave you intrigued and wanting more. Remove your clothes, listen to those headphones. Take off your pants,
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 190. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian. I'm joined as always by Justin.
Hello, welcome to Nerds Without Pants. This is a podcast where we talk about the effects of earthquakes on horses. Julian, how do you think earthquakes have affected horses, and should they be scared going forward?
Well, they definitely need to be scared going forward because, you know, climate change affects everything and there's probably going to be more earthquakes as a result. But also it's led to a lot of extra foundering of horses, and that's just useless horses going to the glue factory when they could have actually been more productive in society, and that's just a sad thing.
I mean, I'm also guessing, and I'm no scientist, that that earthquakes probably produce more quicksand than horses are used to. I haven't encountered any quicksand in my travels, but I'm sure it's out there, and I'm sure earthquakes are a reason for it. So, you know.
And I don't know about you, but I just grew up being very, very terrified of quicksand because it just seems to be in a lot of media.
Batman was always fucking getting into some quicksand bullshit. He was always getting some quicksand bullshit.
And also, we're going back to the horse thing, like in Neverending Story, we definitely see what happens when a horse gets involved in quicksand, and it doesn't end very well.
It doesn't end well. End well. Like, yeah, do you remember the old Batman show, the TV show? Like, every episode, ended with them trapped somehow, in the halfway point.
Show.
I loved that show, too. I only watched reruns because that was all that was on, but I used to love that show, and I always thought it was cool. And
here's one of my big hot takes about the 60s Batman show. I believe that it is actually the most faithful recreation of Batman when you compare it to the comic books of the time. All of the villains are comic book perfect, and the tone is just spot on. It's goofy, but the comic book was goofy at the time, too.
The comic book was goofy at the time, yeah. Batman didn't start getting dark and edgy until a little bit later.
Yeah, it was the 70s, Neil Adams and all that stuff.
You know all the people. I don't know the people.
I know some of the people.
Okay.
When you're friends with John Golson, you just kind of absorb a ton of comic book lore.
That makes sense to me, yeah.
All right, so before we move on, next episode is going to be our last regular format episode of the year. And it's my turn for Stage Select, and I wanted to actually turn the tables on Stage Select, and I want to get to know our listeners a little bit better, Justin. So we're going to do a listener AMA. We've done Nerds Without Pants AMAs a couple times, but this time we're going to ask questions of the listeners, and each of us have 3. So I'll do my 3, and then Justin will do his 3, and then we'll just want your answers, and then we will make a show out of that. So my first one is, what's something that you've been missing this year that you kind of took for granted, and then after the pandemic is over, you're going to be like, I need to do this right now. Like that. What are you missing the most?
Okay.
Next up, what is a movie or book that you just can't live without? And then my last one, because we've done this for, all of the Nerds Without Pants hosts, but I have not done this for the listeners. I want to know your video game origin story. What was the thing that got you into video games? I want to know.
Yours are very good questions. Mine are all bullshit.
I was hoping they would be.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
My first question is, what's your favorite album? That's a good one.
That is a good
one. That one.
Yeah.
Music albums, I feel like you can learn a lot about people from what kind of music they like. So I have, what's your favorite music album? Next up, I have, what would your Transformer name be? And what would you transform into? It's a 2-part question.
Okay.
So, that's a good one. And then my last question is, how often do you buy new shoes? Because I want to know.
That's more because Justin needs to know, because it's been a while since he bought shoes, and he needs to know if, like...
Yeah, I just want to know how normal... Yeah, it's been like a year since I bought new ones. I'm wondering how abnormal that is. So
No,
I
want to know this too, because I tend to buy shoes about once a year, but then Arthur Geese on the Rebel FM show was saying that, like, he's had the same running shoes for like 7 years, and I'm like, how? Mine wear out after a year, and I don't...
let's see, are we doing something wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean, Julian? So I want to know. It's been bothering me. I need to buy some new shoes, actually, because I need slip-on shoes. I'm tired of tying my shoes every time I got to go outside. It's a pain in the ass. I'm to buy some slip-ons.
There you go.
Great.
Just commit to the hermit life.
That's what I'm doing.
And then also it'll be our last cage match of the year. And all right, we're gonna do this one. This is a big one. I figure it's a good one to end the year with. And this is one that has been asked multiple times by Exrian. It's time to break that seal.
Okay.
Next episode in the steel cage is Final Fantasy VI versus Chrono Trigger.
Oof.
Oh shit. It's on.
Oh, man. Okay. I feel like I know what I'm going to pick here, but okay. Yeah.
We'll see. And, again, it can be based on any criteria you want. We're not necessarily saying that one is a better game than the other. We're just saying who's going to win in a steel cage.
Both real good.
Yes.
Both real good. Yeah.
And, okay. So, and you're going to have a little bit more time to get these answers in, because they're a little longer, but also because this episode's coming out early. So we're going to want all of that, by 8:30 Central Time on December 11th. That's when we'll be recording the next episode. Well, we will actually be recording our music episode before that, but
yes,
the next main episode will be on the 11th. So again, 8:30 Central Time on December 11th. That's when we'll want those. This episode, it's not a normal format episode. We're just going to talk about some video games, really. And this is coming out early. If you're listening to this when it's dropping, should be coming out right before Thanksgiving. So, hopefully you're not actually congregating with your family, because that's a bad idea right now. But if you need to get away from your family, like, just in your household or whatever, and you just want to like listen to us bullshit about games for a couple hours, this is for you. But yeah, I thought I would go first, because we're going to do a Julian sandwich, because I've got some stuff up front, and then I'm going to talk about PS5 stuff at the end. So
yeah, you have way more stuff than I do. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, it's only been a week since we recorded the last episode.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This early disclaimer up front. I didn't play a bad game this time. I thought about it, and then I was like, I can't right now. I promise to make it up to everyone. I have an idea in the works, and I'm going to make a whole thing about it. So that's how I will make it up to the people listening. But I was like, a week is not enough time for me to find one of these pieces of shit and play it.
Yeah, and I didn't give you enough of a heads up to let you know, hey, we're going to record this one early because of the holiday weekend or whatever. So,
and even if you did, I would have been really hooked on something else. So,
right. All right. Well, yeah, I guess I'll lead off, because I haven't really talked a lot about Persona 5 since I first started playing it. And, we have talked about it a lot on the show this year. It's kind of been like the Doom 2016 on this podcast of 2020. But so I think that first time I had like 25 hours into it. Mm-hmm. I've got 77 now.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it actually, so I picked this game up at the perfect time, because the night of the election, I decided I can't deal with this anymore. And so I just started like shutting off my phone at like when I would get off of work.
Yeah. And
I would just play Persona. So I would like get off at like, 5:30 or whatever. And then I would like eat. And then it was just like 4 or 5 hours of Persona for like the whole week. And then the weekend came, and I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to look at the news. I like, even after it looked like, after it was pretty obvious that Biden won, I was like, that actually doesn't make me feel any better. Like I thought it would, but it actually, I'm still just as like worried and anxious as I was before. And so then I was like, I'm just going to play Persona. I'm just going to I pulled it Justin. I played it all fucking weekend. I think I put like 24, maybe 28 hours into it. No, well, I'm sorry, longer than that, because if we're counting Friday, then it was probably more like 32.
Okay.
Across, like, for Friday to Sunday.
Whereabouts did you get in it? Where did you leave off? Because I know there's a point where things happen, but where did you leave off, if you don't mind my asking?
I am fairly far into the 6th palace.
Okay.
Like if we're talking about progression, I'm probably like almost halfway, I would say. Basically, so because not to give anything away, but there's like 3
there's
tiers
3 parts
that you have to get to, and I'm trying to get to that 3rd tier.
Okay, gotcha. I know right where you're at. Okay.
So let me just say that, like, obviously I love this game, right? Like, I wouldn't have put this much time into it if I didn't love it. And I will say that this might be one of the best role-playing casts of characters that I have ever seen. Like, they are just so good, and I love them all. And again, like, you know, a lot of that comes down to, like, really great localization and English voice acting. Like,
oh, yeah.
I really love the whole cast, and, like, you know, it's really good. And then I think the battle system is probably what I've wanted for a long time from a JRPG, where it's still traditional turn-based, but it's got just enough, like, oomph to it to where the battles never get old to me.
Yeah, it's got enough, like, thinking involved, but it's not, like, slow. It's not, like, deliberate. Like Octopath, like, there's thinking involved, but, like, the battles are really long sometimes.
Yeah, even some of the, like, regular battles on Octopath are, like, needlessly long.
Exactly, and that gets better over time, like, as you level up. Eventually that stuff's not as bad in that game, but, like, that, there's just a pace to Persona combat that's just, like, really fast, but, like, you still have to think things out. Like, you can't go in there half-assed and just do whatever you want. I mean, if you're way over leveled, then you can kind of, but it helps to be like, okay, I know this guy. It always helped me when, like, I was kind of, like, ahead on Personas. Like, I would be, like, a dungeon ahead on Personas, if that makes sense. Where, like, I would have stuff from the next one. So, like, I would run into people that I already had and know all their weaknesses and stuff like that, and go in there like, oh, yeah, I know what this guy's deal is, so let's deal with him.
Yeah. And that's a nice feature, too, is that once you know, like, a Persona's weakness, then you don't have to remember that stuff. Like, you can actually just bring it up, and there it is. So, because, you know, otherwise it would be a ton to remember. And, you know, I guess it's I can take it either way. Like, sometimes it's a little bit annoying to be like, okay, this is a new Persona. Let me go through every elemental spell that I have while I find it. And then there's one that I've fought so far that's like, oh, you don't have any weaknesses. I used everything on you, and you're okay. Like, I don't.
I don't know how it is in vanilla, but I know in Royal, like, when you bring up the weakness thing, I think it's like one of the triggers, right? Or L1 or something. L1. Yeah, you hit L1 and Makoto gives the whole rundown on them. Most of the time, if they don't have a weakness, they will go, it is not weak to anything, so try doing this. And, like, you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'll try doing that. And usually that'll... do they have tech hits in
they do.
vanilla? Yeah. I figured that was still part of the thing. So I know we were talking about this before the thing, but, like, I know you ran into some problems with how it, like, handles if your main character dies, your whole party dies.
So let me tell you when I rage quit Persona 5 Forever, Justin.
Makes sense.
So I was in the 6th Palace, and I had gone. There's like a kind of like a little mini, not a mini game, but it's like this section where it's like you've got to go through this kind of maze area, and, you know, you got to kind of find your way around. Like, you can't see, so you've really got to be using Joker's like, you know, detective vision or whatever. And you have to, you know, you want to really make sure that you're getting the jump on the enemies, because they are. At least for me, I think they were like my level, and there was a couple that were just like maybe a level ahead of me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was getting through it, doing great, right? Like, making my way. And then I fought this Persona that does this move that's, it's an insta-death spell that gets cast on the entire party. And let me just say, like, blanket statement, Justin, I fucking hate any, like, RPG that has insta-death spells, because it's a thing where you can never pull that off. Right? Like, it never works for you. but it works ridiculously well for the enemies, and that's usually fine. Like, it's annoying, but I've never been in a situation where I get like a full party wipe from it, because it's invariably, it's like, okay, worst case scenario, maybe 2 of your guys go down and you can recover from that.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't realize, well, I think maybe, no, I mean, I think I did, but I had forgotten that if Joker goes down, it's game over no matter what happens. And that happened, and I was like, that sucks.
Yep.
But I wasn't that far. No, I'm sorry, I was really far.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't want to do that again, but all right, let me go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. The first time I was not that far.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, that sucked. Let me keep going. Second time, I had gotten, like, I don't know how far I was through that maze area, but I know that I had at least gotten past, like, the first chunk, and there's a part where you can see again, then you go into another section, and I was, like, well into that second section. Right. Happened again. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going, like, that was, like, an hour and a half of work. Like,
I don't blame you. Yeah, I'm trying to think in Royal if I ever had that problem. I don't remember an enemy that casted on the entire party like that. Mm-hmm. Like the entire party. You're saying that's crazy. Yes. Like I've had them casted on Joker, and I was gonna ask you this: in vanilla, because I didn't get very far in vanilla, so I have a lot of questions about it.
Right?
Was vanilla? Did that have, when you level up a social link within your party, do they get a thing called protect?
Yeah, and so that's the thing is that, again, like, this spell procs way too often.
Yeah.
Because Ryuji did save me from one of them. So, like, technically it's happened to Joker 3 times. It's just one time didn't count because he got protected by Ryuji.
I was going to say,
and Ryuji is, okay, here's my other complaint. Somehow, I completely screwed up the social link stuff.
Okay.
I am level 10 with Ryuji. I'm level 10 with Toshiro, the politician. I'm level 10 with Tai Takemi.
Yeah.
And I'm like level 8 or 9 with a couple others of like just the people that are not in my party. Everybody else is like level 4 or below. Because like, it doesn't, like, they don't call you up very often to, like, want to hang out. Like, for the longest time, like, I could not hang out with An or, not Sasuke.
Yusuke?
Yusuke, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be in fights, and I'd be like, why can't I baton toss? It's like, oh, right, I haven't gotten that ability for them. I've had them for, like, 3 palaces.
It's so annoying. I'm really glad I played Royal, because Royal got rid of unlocking baton pass. It's such a great part of the combat. It is immediately given to you in the first dungeon. It's like, everybody can do it, don't worry about it. And it's like, oh, cool, this is awesome, because I forgot you had to unlock it until, like, I read up on it. I was like, oh shit, that's such a huge thing.
And I don't know if it's because I was supposed to be, like, proactively, like, seeking them out and then going to talk to them to hang out. Because usually what I do in the game is when somebody calls me or texts me, I'll be like, do I want to hang out with them? And usually it's like, okay, the doctor wants to do a clinical trial. Let me go do that right now. Cause I'm trying to get that high for reasons.
Understand.
Same thing with, the maid, definitely trying to rank that up. So anytime that, like, she's available, I definitely try to hang out with her.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't see that very often with, like, my actual party members. It's really bizarre that they don't try to hit, like, Ryuji, he hits you up all the time. That's why I'm level 10 with him. But, like, An didn't even want to hang out, I think, for, like, it was like a full palace after she joined before I could actually do anything with her.
Right. I don't think they actually tell you, because I don't remember a lot of them calling up all the time. I think you just kind of had to know. Like, I know exactly where An hangs out, and you can check on, I think this is in vanilla, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you can check on the map, and it'll show you, like, these are the social links you can go hang out with. Like, I know, like, Anne hangs out in the underground mall all the time. Like, if you see the person in the underground mall, that's Anne, you can go talk to her, and she will hang. I think she'll hang out with you. Sometimes, no, she will always hang out with you if she's there. If you can't hang out with them, they won't be there. Yusuke's the same way. Like, Yusuke has like an ability where you can like give him, at least in Royal he does,
the blank
you can
cards.
give him skill cards. Yeah. And
here's the thing is that, like I've seen that where you can actually see them on the map and I can go visit Mishima and like he'll, I know it'll even tell you if you're going to rank up with them if you hang out with them for that particular time.
Right.
But like I didn't figure that out for like a pretty good chunk of the game, and part of the reason for that is that I would go find An and talk to her and she'd just be like, "Hey, what's up?" And then nothing. Same thing with Yusuke. Like I would go talk to him in the underground mall and he would just be people watching. And then, like, because I didn't even forge, like, the contract with him for a really long time. Because it was, like, when it finally, like, did the thing where I was like, where it does the I am thou, thou art I, was like, this seems like this should have happened a really long time ago.
Yeah, right? I know, so Royal is weird, and I know, like, I followed the guide. Like, that helped a ton. It was like, today, go do, the optimal thing is to go do this and this. And I was like, awesome. Because that helped my, like, anxiety with everything. So, like, I think that might just, like, I hate to say it, but, like, I feel like that's the best way to play Persona is to just be like, get a spoiler-free guide right from the beginning and just
think you're right.
This is the way to do it. I know it, and it's kind of a shitty thing, but, like, I didn't hate playing it that way. I really enjoyed playing it like that.
Well, no, yeah, but I do think that that's a, like, significant flaw in the design of the game because, like, it would be fine, like, if they would give you time to do things. Like, there's so many long stretches of time where you just cannot do anything. And I talked about that last time where it's like, okay, I understand you want to feed me plot. Like, you don't necessarily want me to hang out with this person or that person, but at least let me do some of the stuff that will better my character, right? Like, let me go study, or let me go make curry, or let me go shopping. Like, any one of those things that doesn't involve, like, one of the other characters, like, that would go a huge way. Cause, like, one of the big things for me is that, the SP items are a very hot commodity. And so it's like, okay, I need to go to the, let me go to the, like, drink machine by the bathhouse and buy these ones that only give you 5 SP a pop, and you can only buy 2 at a time. But let me go get those while I can, and let me make some coffee so that, like, I can at least have that, because I think that gives you like 30, which is pretty good.
Yeah, 20 or 30, something like that. Yeah,
and I think the curry gives it to the whole party, which is really great. But
you can only make curry every now and then. Usually,
exactly. Yeah, and that thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, man. Like, it is really weird, like how it's set up. And I agree. I think they definitely have this mindset of like, well, people will do all that on the New Game Plus, and it's like, but I want to do it the first time. Like, I want to get it right the first time, and like, it's weird. And the thing is, if it wasn't possible to do it on the first time, you just give up. You just be like, okay, whatever. But like, I know it's possible to do it on the first time because I did it.
Right.
But
that's the thing, is that there's definitely stuff in there where I feel that it is like, oh, okay, a good example is like the guy at the airsoft shop. In order to, like, start the contract with him, you need to have Dauntless Guts.
Yes.
Right? I didn't get Dauntless Guts until, like, 70 hours into the game.
Yep.
And so by the time I finally unlocked that, like, he's, like, it's kind of too late in the game for me to actually, like, build that relationship up, where I think that what they intended you to do is start a New Game Plus and you already have Dauntless Guts, so you get him from the jump.
Yes.
But that's a huge ask for a 90-hour game.
A giant game like that, I agree.
If it was, like, a 30-hour game, totally understandable, right? Like, it's like, sure, like 60 hours to go through it twice
play
and get
through
everything.
It twice. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I know, let's see, I'm trying to think of like the differences in Royal. Like, I know like how, like, playing it with the guide, like, it would just like warn you, like, hey, do this, and this today, and all this stuff. And like, it worked out like flawlessly almost every time, like, cause they knew what was coming. So like, that really helped. And, it's funny because at the end of that game, at the end of Royal, so Royal adds an extra month at the end of it, which, God, that game didn't need. But it adds a month. And I remember, like, at the end, like, because I was following the guide and was, like, maxed out on everything, I was bored. I was like, I am out of things to do. And I was, like, actively trying to, like, okay, how do I waste time tonight? Because now, did you unlock the fortune teller by chance?
Yes, but again, very late into the game, so I've only got her to like level 2, I think. Oh
man, yeah, she's a big one to get up because
it looked like it because I know the next one that I have to unlock. I think you get more money like for like next time that you go into a dungeon.
Yeah,
money is a huge issue in Persona.
That's a big one, but like the biggest one that she has is she gives you these things called affection readings or something like that. I can't remember what they're actually called. And what you can do is you can spend money to like increase like the affection of like somebody, so you can every now and then, and even in the guide I was using, it would be like, hey, go hang out with this person today. You're not going to max the social link out, but this will keep you on schedule. And it's just to get the points to where next time you hang out with them, it'll be good. And some of those times I was just like, well, I'm going to skip that because I'm behind on this other thing. So let me skip that and get it and try to catch up. And then eventually I'd be like, okay, well, I feel like I've shot myself in the foot here because now I can't, level up this social link. But then at the end of the game, I figured out that I could just do these readings and just get ahead on stuff. So every time they're like, go hang out with this person for no benefit. And I'd be like, no, let me just spam the fortune teller and not do that and get caught back up. So it really helped. But yeah, and Royal is crazy because it adds like a whole little, like, there's a lot more like weird character building in it. Not weird character building, really good character building in it with a certain character that it adds. And then it adds a whole other party member and that shit's crazy. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that I didn't actually rage quit this forever.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is that I need to go into the game and see if I have any accessory that protects against hints to death. I have a spell that protects against it, but it costs like 26 SP, and that's just not like, that's not feasible to go through an entire dungeon using that every time that I fight that enemy.
You could always just try to run from them.
Yeah, that's true. I never run from fights.
Yeah, you can do it. Like just try that. And I remember you saying that, and I was like, I know how you feel because I've been there on games, and I'm like, just take a breather from it. I know that feeling. Like, just like take a breather, and go back when you want to do it. And plus, there's a lot of other stuff out now to play too. So I was like, yeah, I understand why you take a break from this right now.
And here's the thing. I think Xrian mentioned this on Twitter. Because I'm in November, right? That's where I'm at right now. And I was thinking I should just finish November and then put it down and then play December in December. And I actually think that in a future Persona, like that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play a month.
That would be kind of a cool way to do it, actually.
Yeah.
I remember Super Best Friends back in the day when they were together. They were going to do a Persona 5 playthrough. I remember their idea was to do a video for every day. They were going to do one video for the day and then like go like that. Just this is this day and no matter what it was, that was that day. And I was like, that's a really good idea. But then it's Atlas we're talking about, so you can't make anything Persona 5 related if you're a popular channel. So that idea got, squashed. But like that was I was like, that would be a really interesting way to play it, just to play through one day at a time. Now, obviously there are certain parts in that game where it just rattles off days in a row and shit. So it'd be kind of weird in there, but I will say this. Please, for the love of God, finish that 6th dungeon. You are so close to the cool shit.
Here's the other thing, Justin.
Yeah.
There's a character that joins your party for the 6th palace.
Okay, I know.
No. I fucking hate him.
Julian?
Justin. Every time that I have seen this dude, I just want to punch him in his face.
No.
I punch him in his face.
I get it. I totally get it. And
I think I know what's going to happen. But even so, I was like, okay, let me give this douchebag a try. And then even his animation for when he does the big finish is like the most obnoxious thing. And I just want to eject him from the party so hard.
Man, I I know how you feel, Julian. Trust me. And I that's all I can tell you is I know how you feel. And just please, that's all I can say. I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm just like, please do this thing, and you will be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Even if you're like, no, I don't want to do it. Just like, if you eventually are like, okay, I'm not gonna go back to this game. I just don't have the time or whatever. You owe it to yourself to just see what happens at the end of that. Like, I'm not kidding. I remember when I came on here and was like, it's one of the greatest pop-off moments I've ever seen in a video game. Like, you're this close to it. Like, this fucking close, man. Like, it's really good.
Yeah, well, I might try to go back to it. Like, cause I've got, like a 4-day weekend for Thanksgiving. I've got a 4-day weekend for, Christmas. So I might fire it back up for Thanksgiving weekend, depending on how far I get on my PS5 games, which I'll talk about at the end of the show.
Yeah, like I said, take a break from it and then see if it calls you back, or that's the best way to do it, man. I get mad at games sometimes like that, and I take a break from them sometimes.
It's just like, I get it in like a Fire Emblem game or like a strategy RPG, because they're like the commander of the army, right? So it's like you lose the commander and it makes sense, but like. In this situation, like, that does not work for me. Like,
I know, I feel that way about Yakuza too. Yakuza does the same thing. Yakuza, if your main character goes down, you die. And I'm like, but I have guys who can bring him back. Like, why can't I? Like, stupid.
Let me ask you a question though.
Sure.
When Persona 6 comes out, what do you do? Do you buy that day one? Or do you wait a year and buy the upgraded one? Because they have now done this every time since 3.
It is such a shitty thing that they're doing like that. I halfway like it, because then they change a lot of shit. Royal changes a lot of shit, and respect where it's due.
Just from talking to you, like off mic and stuff like that, like, I really wish that I had played Royal.
Yeah. There's a lot of like quality of life stuff in there that's just crazy, and the story that it does add is pretty good overall. And like, if you were to, like, here's the thing: if you were to ask me what do we do storyline wise, like what should we do storyline wise for Persona 6, I would have been like, well, you kind of shouldn't have done what you did in Royal, and you should have made that extra story in Royal Persona 6 and just expanded upon that idea. That's how good it was. That's how it, like. It fit with the game. It was fine, and I did enjoy it. But like, I was like, they should have really expanded upon this, because this is a genius idea for something. And they were just like, we'll just throw it in a month until that's like, no, you should have kept like that. You should have made a game out of this shit. This is worth exploring more. That's how good it was. But yeah, it's a good question, because if Persona 6 comes out, I know probably I would wait. I might buy it and then wait to play it until guides come out.
Right.
Normally, I will say this about Persona and Atlas games a lot of the time, they usually come out in Japan a good chunk of time early, so like people kind of have guides out, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. I'll look into it, but I'm not playing Persona 6 without a guide. I'll put it like that.
Yeah. Well, I was more curious about because obviously, like, I think we're both like really into this series now. So like, I would want to buy Persona 6 day one, but the fact that for 3, 4, and 5, they have released a much better version of it about a year later, like, that makes me kind of want to wait.
I agree.
Even though I do like to be in like the gaming zeitgeist, and be playing the game when everybody else is talking about it. But
I'm the same way. And I bought Persona 6 day one, and I liked it. And then I kind of, I was doing other stuff, and I kind of drifted away from it for a while. And then this one was on sale. Royal was on sale, and I was like, why not? And I was like, that's a good excuse to go play the game again.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. But yeah, it's a hell of a model they got going. It's a hell of a fucking hustle to be like, we're not going to update the game. We'll just sell you a new game.
Right.
Like, it's fucking kind of nuts. They're like the only motherfuckers that can get away with it too. Like,
Square Enix did it with Dragon Quest XI this year.
Yeah,
but it's not quite. It's not to the level of what Royal did.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's quite to that level where it's like. I don't know. I'm not a Dragon Quest guy. I don't know like how, the big differences that the new one has in it, how much it adds or whatever. I know like the music thing was a big deal in that one.
Yeah. And they added the 2D version from the 3DS version, which, cause you can actually switch between, like they did basically two versions of Dragon Quest 11. There's the full 3D one, but then you can play it in like 16-bit style, like, Dragon Quest like 5 and 6. It's insane.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's sweet, man. I don't know though. It's weird. I'd have to like really play, both Dragon Quest, which I don't intend to do. One of these days I want to try the newer Dragon Quest, the improved one out, just to see if I like that series at all. I'm not sure. I'm
curious because so based on what you said about, Yakuza Like a Dragon, we'll talk about it more in a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually think that maybe Dragon Quest isn't going to do it for you because Dragon Quest is such a, it's like a really comfortable shoe, right?
Yeah.
Like it fits just right and it feels right. But it's not, it's not new. It's not shiny. But there's something to that.
I've had that same concern for a while, actually. Like, where I know, like, I know there's one of our listeners that's always like, "You need to go play it, man. Just go play." Like, I always see him like tweeted at me, and I'm like, I one of these days I'm gonna get around to it. Just I'm just waiting for the right time.
Yeah.
And I do want to play it, but like I do have this deep seated fear of like, what if I play it and I don't like it? And like it's almost like I almost have this fear that it's been built up so much. And
well,
I'm like,
let me say because I will say that like just on a straight combat level, like it is a very simple turn-based RPG. It is attack, magic, item, and then you have like these pep skills that you can do. And that's how all of them are, right? That's the thing about Dragon Quest. It's interesting, right? Because you have Final Fantasy that goes wildly different with each game.
Yeah.
Then you have Persona, where it's kind of like splitting the difference, where it's like, it's doing different things, but then also it's very traditional. Then you have Dragon Quest, which is, other than the graphics getting better and the scope of the games getting bigger, they have not changed.
Right.
I will say that like, because of that, like I have really enjoyed them because like I said a few years ago, like I had not really played the series until recently, and I've really fallen in love with it. Partially because those traditional turn-based games are so rare now. Right. But also because it succeeds so strongly on its writing and characters, and also like the puns are just like, they're just like perfect. So
man, are they as good as Yakuza Like a Dragon puns though? That's my question.
Well, I haven't seen them yet, but
man,
but that's where Yakuza Like a Dragon got it, right?
There's some good ones in there, man. I mean, there's some where I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that one, but like there's a few where it's just like, yeah, I don't know if that translates quite good, but like with homeless people, but but all the rest of them are pretty good. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a really good one, man. It sucks. My brain sucks.
So there's one. I was playing Final Fantasy 14 last night, and their quest names are legendary. Yeah. And there was one that we did last night where we had to go, there were like there is like this bathhouse, like an outdoor bath, like almost like an onsen. And there were these two guys that were like, being a little too rowdy, and they asked me to like go take care of them. And the name of the quest is Inglorious Bath Stewards.
That's good. That's good. That's really good.
I told Shanna, I was like, the artistry of that pun is like, that's on a whole different level. Like,
yeah, that's quite good. That is quite good.
And then real quick before we get to Yakuza, briefly, I started playing Katana Zero because it's finally on Game Pass, and that's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Dude.
I told you.
That game is cool. No, I knew I was going to like it, but I was just waiting for it to come on Xbox.
That makes sense. I remember you telling me that now that I think about it. Yeah. I loved that game. It's so much fun, man.
It's got a really cool style to it. I love the way that, it handles like the dialogue options and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also the gameplay, like it's Hotline Miami, except it doesn't suck, and it also follows its own rules. And it's got better music. So it's like across the board.
So good.
Oh, it's so good.
It's really good, man. That game is awesome, dude. It's like, man, it feels so good to be able to like slow down time and just knock bullets back at people, and then or like, and just figuring out like the weird puzzle element of some room that you can't get past. Like there's always one room that I always remember where I was like, how the fuck are you supposed to beat this? And then I found like the secret was to like run into this like weird kitchen area and throw everything into the other room and then go up. And I love that game. It's so cool.
I love the places where it's like, oh, here's just a big group of things that you can throw at people, and it's a one-hit kill for each one. You're just like flinging things, like, you know, at all these guys, and they just all go down.
It's cool.
So I don't have much to say about it other than like I've only played like the first like I think 4-ish missions. Things are starting to get weird in the game. Like I'll say that. Like that's where I'm.
It's not a long game. It's really not. Yeah, it's fairly short. I want to say you're probably more than halfway through it, honestly. Cool. Yeah.
But I am looking forward to the sequel. I don't know if you heard about the sequel that's coming out. Justin.
Is there a sequel? Oh,
it's called Katana Zero, and you still do the same stuff, but then you also have this existential crisis about capitalism and you see what I did there?
I see what you did there. Yeah, that's I was like, oh yeah.
Thought that would land a little better. They can't all be winners, people.
I liked it. I was on board. Yakuza now? I don't know.
Yeah, because you said before the show that that's really the main thing.
Yeah, that's about all I have. Because that's all I've been really playing. I finished it. So we were talking about Dragon Quest. Let me ask you something about Dragon Quest, because I'm really curious if how faithful to Dragon Quest this game is, because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
In Dragon Quest job systems, does it work like when you level up jobs or whatever, like you get to keep like 2 abilities from that job, and you can use them forever, and then you can switch to? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think it works that way in every one of the ones that have the job systems, but definitely like the most recent one, which was 9, that had the job system. That's how it worked. Where you could level up monk to like level 30. And then switch over to warrior, but then you could add like some monk skills up to like the level 30 or whatever.
I was going to say this one has like specific skills that it adds permanently to every, like no matter what job you are, you always have those skills. So.
Oh, right. There might have been some passive things that carried over to everything. Cause Dragon Quest 9 was definitely like, they really wanted you to level multiple jobs to very high levels. And I think it was because that's really how you maximized your character.
Yeah, this one, so last time I was on, I said there was 99 levels to every job class, and there is, but it tells you that you mastered the job at level 30. So I wasn't really, because I remember looking at the achievements for this game, and it was like level up 7 job classes all the way, and I was like, there ain't no fucking way I'm sitting here and doing that. It takes so long just to get this to level like 20 something. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. And then I hit level 30 with a job, and it was like, you mastered a job class. I was like, oh, okay. And then I looked further, and it was like all the other skills are just like bonuses to everything. And I was like, okay, all right, this isn't near as bad as I thought it was. All right, we're okay.
That brings me to one thing that I thought about, or that I wanted to mention on air.
Oh, go for it.
Why don't you get the last 2 trophies on Persona 5 Royal to get the platinum, Justin?
Oh, is it driving you insane? I'm sorry.
It is. I was like looking, and I was like, holy crap, Justin got a lot of the trophies. And I looked at the list, and I was like, he's just got 2 easy trophies left, and he's got the whole thing.
What were the trophies that I had to get? Do you know?
I don't remember, but they didn't seem like they would be like super difficult
out
ones
of the
to
question.
Get. Yeah. Because they weren't hidden ones, and they weren't like, I don't know. I was just... I know you're not as big a trophy hound as I am.
I was going to say, I don't care about trophies, and I think I noticed how many I had, and I just was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, when I'm done with a game, man, I am done. I don't care what's left. I know I'm like in 13 Sentinels. I know there was like a few things that I could have done on 13 Sentinels to get the platinum on it or whatever. And I was just like, nah, I'm good. I finished what I wanted. I seen what I wanted to see. I played what I wanted to play. I'm done. Like, and maybe one of these times I'll go back and get whatever couple trophies there are, but I really don't mind. I'm kind of, it'll probably be that way for Yakuza 2, where there's like, I have a pretty good chunk of the trophies right now, but I'm like already like, there's probably going to be a couple where I'm just like, I don't feel like doing this can quest thing. I know it'd be easy to do it. I just don't feel like it. But anyway, so last time I was really harsh on the battle system, and I still feel that way about the battle system, but I ended up asking myself a question like a couple days after the podcast was on, and I was just like, okay, I was just sitting there just playing the game, and I remember I kicked the exact moment where I thought of this was I kicked a bike into one of my own party members, and I was like, there was no way I could avoid doing that. That's fucking bullshit. It doesn't punish you super hard for it. It was like they lost like 6 health or something, whatever. It's not even a big deal. It's a blip on the radar. But like still I was like, that's so dumb. But I went, do I prefer this over like the regular traditional Yakuza? And then immediately I was like, yeah, I do. I actually do. I really actually like it a lot more. I think the battle system, like I said, it's sloppy in a lot of ways. But I think there's a lot of room to improve on it. And I'm hoping this is like a good foundation going forward, you know, like there's only, if this is as low as it goes, there's, you know, it's got a lot of cool things that it can do going forward. So
I learned something about Yakuza Like a Dragon today.
Did you?
Apparently there's an interview out there with the director.
Yes.
Did you hear about this?
Yes.
So for the listeners who don't know, like, apparently this was going to be a traditional Yakuza game. That was how it was planned. I mean, it was still going to be a new character, but it was, other than that, it was going to be a by the numbers Yakuza game. And they did like some sort of, I guess because the character still liked Dragon Quest, so they did this like fun little mock-up of, you know, the turn-based thing, just like an internal gag, but everybody loved it.
I was going to say, I heard it, and if it's the thing I'm thinking of, there was an April Fool's video that came out. And
was that an April Fool's video?
Yes.
I remember that coming out, but I thought that was just a trailer for the game.
And I believe, and they were just like joking around. They were like, it was an April Fool's thing. And then people were like, no, this looks cool. Yeah. And I remember seeing it back a while back and being like, what is that? That's Yakuza? That sounds fucking awesome. Like, I want to play that. And then learning it was in April, I was like, all right, well, ignore that thing. And then this happened, you know?
Yeah. And apparently they did it in like 11 months. So yeah. Knowing that, like, it seems like they did they came a really long way towards that. But I agree with you. Like, even though I've only played like the first hour and a half or so far, it's I already know that I would like to see them continue this, maybe with the same character, at least for another game or two, right? Like, I don't think that the series should become this in perpetuity, but I definitely think that there's a case to be made that, like, you could have your turn-based Yakuza games and you could have your action RPG Yakuza games, and they could go in different directions.
I think with Ichiban, with Kasuga or whatever, going forward with him, I think this is his style of game. Like, I think you can, if you want to do the traditional Yakuza, you have other characters you could do, and you also you could go back to Judgment. Like, that's also another thing you could do. Like, you have a lot of options with that stuff if you want to do the beat 'em up route, and that's totally fine. I really dig the game. I'm still like, I beat it, and I'm still like grinding away at it because I'm like, maybe I'll go do these challenge missions and stuff. Why not? I'm bored. I don't got anything better to play. I've been thinking about playing Assassin's Creed, but I just don't. Really
I thought for sure you were going to pick that up right off the jump, just because you loved you loved Odyssey, right? You didn't really get into Origins.
Origins I didn't really vibe with too well, but I do want to play. Maybe? Yeah, this I'm not a big Viking guy. Like and really I picked up Odyssey on a whim because it was on sale, and then ended up really liking it. It was kind of like a fluke thing. So this one, maybe I'll probably end up doing the same thing. Like I think I picked it up on, oh, excuse me. I think I picked it up on Black Friday for like, $40 or something like that, and was like, okay, yeah, why not play this and see how it goes. Also, because I only have old gen right now, like Yakuza is one thing to play on like your old gen stuff, because like it's Yakuza, like I don't really think it's gonna make a big difference. But that game, I feel like it's gonna make a big difference. Like I'm like, I'm a little weary. Maybe I'll wait till I pick up a next gen system to actually get around to that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm in no hurry to play it, honestly. Like, I want to try it, but I'm not, like, jumping out of my skin just to get my hands on it or anything like that. I've kind of had enough open world for a while after fucking Watch Dogs and shit like that.
Yeah, I've really got to pick my battles with open world stuff. And Valhalla has looked interesting to me because I do like the Viking stuff, and I was like, I think I would actually play the dude just because I want to be Thor. Like, that's just a neat thing to me. Even though I also like the idea of being like a really badass, like, Viking lady, but I could be Thor. But even so, it's like I've said, I'm waiting to see what Immortals ends up being, because that's coming out very soon. Yeah. But then also, I think, but if I really want to play that, why don't I just go and finish Odyssey? Because like, I already bought that. But of course, it's also the thing of like the new shiny, where it's like, there's not much to play on. They probably made a bunch of improvements on this one. Who knows? You know, I'd have to play it to tell you. And I just haven't yet. But anyway, back to Yakuza. So like I said, I beat it. It was really, really good. I really, really liked it. Casca is a great character. I love him a lot. Like, I like that guy a lot. So there's been like a bunch of people discussing this game, and everybody always seems to go, you know what, this is, like, fans especially are like, this is a great place to pick this series up and get into the series. And I do agree with that, because like, you don't, like, it's a brand new character, all that stuff. But I will say this, and I don't think this is spoilery. I hope it's not spoilery. To me, it's not. If you played Yakuza 0, you will appreciate moments in this game a lot more. I will say that. Like, it ties into, there are the tie-ins that it does have there. They seem to know where this franchise picked up at. They're like, 0 was popular and people played 6. So like, those are the ones we're going to stick with. There's a character that like directly links to 6. If you played 0, like, there are some real awesome fucking moments that go from that. And even if I will say this, if you didn't play that game and you want to check this series out, you'll be fine. It won't. It will just make those moments like better for you. But yeah, I loved it. It was great, and it's still great. I'm still playing it. I do have some tips. I guess I'll be willing to give. I don't ever give tips. And I was like trying to struggle on what to say more about Yakuza, so I wrote down a bunch of tips here. One of my tips is I was talking about the business minigame last episode. Do it early. Do it you don't have to jump out and do it as early as you possibly can, but do it pretty early. Reason being, A, it gives you money, which is good, but B, you unlock a missable party member in it, and it helps, like, there's a certain couple chapters where it helps to have them, because for reasons. Just trust me on that. So that's a good one. Let's see. Would you consider that party member almost like the Yuffie or Vincent of the game, or are you supposed to have that character? Here's the funny thing: they're so extra that they don't show up in cutscenes or anything like that. Okay, that's what I was wondering. They are so they're like, extra. Yeah. That's cool though, because I miss RPGs where there is like hidden characters that you didn't even know were in there, and then you get them. And like, who's this person joining my party? That's cool. Yeah. They just kind of do that, and it also helps because they're a female character. There's only 2 female characters in the game, right? And there's female job classes. And basically, one of my other tips here was like, always have an idol in your party.
because idle is the best. I know that sounds funny, but that's
I mean, that's what I love about the game, right?
Exactly. Oh, dude, all the job classes are so zany and stupid that they're great. But having an idol in your party, they're the best healers. They sing the songs and make you feel better.
Everybody loves a bard.
Exactly. They are like they are the best like healers. They're like actually like tank healers too. Like they take a lot of damage and shit. They make like certain boss fights like a joke, like, because like, especially late game. So always have one of those. And because you always need to have one of those, if you want to like explore the other job classes, you kind of need this optional character to do it. So that way you can kind of go, okay, now we're going to have her play the idol. Right. And then you be this other job class that I want to try out. And which goes to my other thing is like, as soon as you get a party member in this game, put them in your party, because you gotta, it's kind of like Persona. They kind of like, this is one of the Persona-like things that they did. They basically have like social link type things. They're called drink links with your party members. And you like sit down at the bar and you have a drink with them and they tell you the problem and you help them with the problem or whatever. But they go up with battles if they're in your party. And then if you get that to level 5, when they're out of your party, they gain as much experience as if they were in it. So like, you can basically like get a new job class that like, because if you get a brand new job class, like it lowers your stats and all this stuff, you're kind of a shit party member, honestly.
Yeah. That's how you can have them Dragon Quest 9.
Exactly. But you can have them sit out of the party and gain all the experience you're getting. And like, especially if you go to this place where I'm going to suggest in a little bit, you'll just shoot up stuff and not have to worry about it. And then you can kind of like, okay, they're like level 20 in this job class. Now I can put them in my party and try the stuff out. Which leads me to my next thing. Don't worry about grinding so much, except until about chapter 12. Because chapter 12, you unlock the battle arena, and that is the best place to grind in the game that I've found so far. And you can go through it as many times as you want. It gets you a bunch of like rare stuff to put into weapons and shit like that. It's really nice. And you can just keep doing it over and over. I start at level 11 and go to level 30, and then I do it over again most of the time. And it's pretty good. Chapter 12 is where like the difficulty spike hits. There is a difficulty spike in this game, and it is pretty fierce when it hits. But I didn't personally have too big of a problem with it, but I could tell like the game was like, oh, this is real. And the funny thing is like, wasn't mad at that difficulty spike. It was pretty fucking cool.
Right. I mean,
yeah, it was
that was the big criticism that I've heard of this game, even back when it came out in Japan, was that there was this like very specific boss fight where once you get there, it's like this huge jump, and it's very clear that they want you to go to that battle arena and spend some time there, even though they tell you it's optional. It's kind of not. But also like we were talking about this before the show, but you had done like a ton of the side quests, and I got the feeling that this person and a lot of the reviewers were kind of mainlining the story. So that's probably why they had a much harder time overcoming that difficulty spike, because they were probably much lower level than you were. Exactly.
And like there was right before level or chapter 12 or maybe at chapter 12, there's this things called part-time hero quests that you can go do which are just these little like, this guy with a luchador mask, or not even a luchador mask. It's like a Kamen Rider helmet or whatever. He like sends you on all these little things around the city. You can like, you have to like go take toilet paper to a guy and shit like that. Or you go and get like little fights from it and you get money from them. They're little like they're not even side quests. They're just mini quests basically. And one of those, there was this certain enemy that only took 1 damage, but like he only had like 20 health or something like that.
Oh, he's the metal slime of the game.
There you go. Yeah. And when you killed him, like you shot up like I shot up like 10 levels in that fight. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Great. I get it now. Especially because I cheesed that fight. The best way to do it, if you get to that fight and you're like, I don't understand how to beat this guy. If you have one of the girls shoot, or the guy that shoots the bullets, shoot him with the bullets, because it lands a ton of times, and then all that's damage, and you're good. Yeah. Like I basically one-shot him that way. It was pretty fun. And the battle arena will also give you this nice little charm that will turn off enemy encounters in the world, because at a certain point they are useless. And they get really annoying and in your way.
Yeah. Which I have felt that with the other games in the series that I've played. Like, I think I talked about that with Judgment, like, because especially in that one with the Cahin gang, like, and all that shit.
That's the worst thing they ever fucking put in a Yakuza game is the K. That was such a bad idea.
Yeah. And towards the end of the game, I was just like, no, I don't have time for you idiots.
There was a certain point where I am charging to the end of this. I don't care anymore. We are done here. This, those encounters get really old really quick.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, and this is like kind of an early game thing that you can kind of do, and I didn't know about it until late game. You can do it whenever, really. But there's one of the job classes is called Foreman, and I would suggest putting it on Casca almost right away. It's not the best job class or anything like that, but what it unlocks immediately if you put it on him, and you have to like exit the menu, make sure he gets it. It puts on him this thing called Demolish, so you can walk around the city and find these little like boarded up places, and he'll hit them with a hammer, and now it's not boarded up and you can go in. So like that's a thing I didn't know about because I ignored that. I was like, that doesn't really seem like how I want to play right now, so I just didn't do it. And then, lo and behold, there's like secret shops where you can buy like safe keys and all sorts of shit. And I was like, wish I would have known about this earlier in the game. Whoops, that's on me. So yeah, don't make that mistake. But that's my advice. But like I said, the game is really good. I really liked it. And asking myself if I like it better than Zero. Boy, that's tough. Like Yakuza 0 is really, really good. And to me, like Zero is the best one it's my favorite one by leaps and bounds, right? This one is like right up there. Like I'm not 100% sure if I like it more or less yet. Like give me a little time and I could probably tell you which one. But I was infinitely glad that I played Zero when I played this one, especially at a certain point, because I was like, yo, this shit's great. But yeah, I really liked it. Had a great story. The translation's really good too, except in certain spots. There's a certain thing in the translation that I found personally weird, but like every other thing was awesome. You played Persona 5, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we just talked about it. Okay. So you meet a character early on in the game, and she's this, naive girl. You gotta help her out with some problems. She has Makoto's voice actress. Okay. It's Makoto. You hear and you go, that's Makoto, obviously. And then later on, you meet her bitchier sister who has Sai Nijima's fucking voice actress. And I'm like, y'all knew what you were doing there.
Yeah.
Y'all knew what you were doing there. You meet like a certain character in this game, and David Hayter is the voice actor. I didn't even know that until like later on. I was like, oh shit, that was David Hayter the entire time. That's fucking awesome. Like that shit was going. They knew what they were doing. This is a good voice cast. Like Ichiban's voice actor is I didn't even know this. He was in 13 Sentinels. He's oh god, he's the guy from the 40s who's got the long hair, and he loves the yakisoba pan. People who play the game know who he is. But he's good. It's a good voice cast, man. They really did good with the translation. It only got weird in one spot, and it is if I told you why, it would spoil it. So
sure.
We'll good game, highly recommend. But yeah, it does have issues here and there, but after a while of playing, you don't even notice them anymore.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to jumping into. I just started to I just want a taste of the combat to see what it was like. But dude, I'll probably play that over our hiatus, because that's when I played Judgment, and that was like the perfect time. To play Judgment.
I really think you'll like it, especially because like the humor just does not miss in this game. Like nice. It is legit great. Like. That's what we were talking about just like in texting, is that like the stuff that we like about Yakuza, like it seems, well, and now, but like just from the trailers and stuff, like Like a Dragon definitely seemed like, oh, we're going hard on that silly stuff that you like. They very much did. Yes, they very much went hard on that stuff, and it benefits very much. Like that goofy shit is really good in this game, and it's so funny throughout. Like they, like I said, they just don't miss like a lot of the time. It's incredible. Like you keep waiting for like something. Like I said, there's definitely some like weird Japanese stuff in there, but like that's in every one of these games.
Oh yeah.
Like if you played one of them, you know kind of what to expect here. But
you know what's interesting? So. I've been watching a ton of YouTube late, especially during the whole pandemic stuff, and I came across this channel. It's like these gorgeous 4K videos of this person just walking through districts in Tokyo, right? And it's just like they're like sometimes like 2 hours long. It's just like continual. Like this person's just walking through the streets, and you just get to take in the sights. And it's like, well, I'm probably never going to Japan now, so this is really cool. But also, like the first one that I watched, it was basically Kamurocho. And I was like, I understand what all this stuff is. Like, I know what type of restaurant that is. I know that, that's a barker for like one of the hostess clubs. Like, I was like, I understand this stuff. Like, it was just like a really neat thing. And it makes you realize just how much of like a slice of Japan experience the Yakuza games are. And I really appreciate that just on a level of like, I've always wanted to go to Japan, haven't been, and now I'm probably never going. So if I can experience it vicariously through the Yakuza games, that's pretty neat.
Man, I didn't more about it is a real like slice of Japan. One more last thing about the voice cast. I didn't realize that the one guy Arakawa, have you met Arakawa? Yeah, you probably did if you played.
He's a like patriarch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Sulu.
Yeah,
George
I didn't
Takei.
realize he was George Takei. I was like, oh, of course, that's great.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I remember when Judgment, they said they were going to do, like, English voice acting, and I was like, why are you guys spending the money on English voice acting? Like, just because, like, Yakuza 0 did really good numbers here, that doesn't mean that you should spend a ton of money on the series yet. It seems to be that's the right call, and I think that the series is only going to get bigger because of it.
Yeah, there's a side quest where this is another thing about the translation. There's a side quest. I know this has gone around and stuff like that, but you meet an American dude, and he's basically like yelling at you in very simple English, like, where is the subway? And like, and Ichiban's like, what is he saying? And it's very easy to pick up that, oh, he's speaking English and trying to be really slow in what he's saying, and Ichiban has no idea what he's saying, even though he's talking in English. It came across so well. I was like, they nailed this part. And then like another guy comes along and basically yells back at him in English in like the most, go this way, take right. I was like, oh, they nailed this part. This is so good.
Because that's the part where like Ichiban says, oh, he must be speaking English, and then turns to you, to the camera, like...
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of parts in this game where they flat out look at the camera like, you got that, didn't you? And it's real good. It's real good. They knock it out.
I saw that clip. I think I had actually sent it to you before the game came out, because one of the localizers was saying, I actually asked them to change the animation there to make sure that he looked at the camera for that, because I was like, no, you don't understand. This doesn't work unless he looks at the camera after he says that. Which is really neat. I didn't realize that localizers can go that far, because this is just an aside, but there's a character in Final Fantasy XIV Heaven's Ward named Horchifon who is so horny for the Warrior of Light. And me and Shannon were like, man, he really wants us. Because, obviously we're both the Warrior of Light, but whatever. And so we'll say, like, he's really coming on to be pretty hard. But in the Japanese version, in the English version, it's like a covert thing, right? Like, if you read between the lines, like, he's horny for you. The Japanese version, he is overtly horny for you. Like, he's talking about asking you to come back to his house, and like he's talking about like hot tubs, and he's got like these real pervy, like totally new facial expressions, like totally different animations. Yeah. I had no idea that the game was that different from Japan to English. Like, I didn't know that they did that with localizations now, and I think that's really neat. Like, different animations, different, like they've really come a long way with that stuff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate it too. It's like, 13 Sentinels had a great like localization. Like, it really did. Like, so many, and it's funny because I keep hearing, like, Persona 5 is such a like it was such a big one that like now I can like every time I'm like, oh, there's a Morgana every time. Like I'm just like, yep, that's Morgana. Yep. Oh, there's Makoto. There's Sai. There's I hear like Anne all the time, and that like all those voice actors. I'm like, yep, there they are. Like
just like
the gang's all here.
Yeah,
exactly. It's but like they're good. They're doing a great job. They know what they're doing, and that's awesome. I really like it.
And I think the only, because I know we bring it up a lot, but it's only because like we come from the era when localizations were not good at all. So it's always shocking to me, and I shouldn't be, because it's been this way for a long time now, but like it's just gotten better and better, and I'm just kind of in awe. And also this comes from a person who was like watching anime like way back in the early days when we weren't getting very much of it translated, and what we got was like not necessarily translated correctly, right? So it's cool to be able to experience this stuff closer to what the intention is, but still modified so that we get some of the jokes that would have gone over our heads.
Exactly. Yep. We're doing good in that area, and I'm proud of us.
We did a great job localizing Yakuza Like a Dragon.
We did such a good job, Julian. We nailed it. We knocked it out of the park. I called David Hayter the other day. I was like, dude, we nailed it. He was like, I don't know who you are. Please stop calling me. It was weird.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like I said, there's only one part of it that was weird, and it wasn't bad. It was just weird. Yeah. Like, it was just weird. Like,
and to say that in a Yakuza game, that I need to see that scene, because if it's weird in a Yakuza game, that's
you'll know. Believe me, you'll know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you'll go, oh, this was what Justin was talking about. I got it. But yeah, great game. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I haven't stopped playing it yet, so it can't be bad, right? Like I was trying to think of like what my top 5 games were this year, and where I would place this one, and I'm like, right now, I'm like, it's probably just under Hades. Like, wow. I think so. Like, yeah, like I really liked it. I really did. Yeah, Hades probably game of the year for me right now. I hope it wins the Game Awards. It deserves to win.
When are those anyway?
I don't know, but I seen they announced like their top 5 or whatever, and it was funny because when they announced it, I was like, "Oh yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out this year, didn't it?" I totally forgot that game came out.
December 10th. That's late. Well, I guess that makes sense. Everything's later this year. Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that with you again. That was fun last year. Although we're not going to get anything as big as the reveal of the new Xbox this time.
No, probably not. But yeah, that'll be entertaining.
Yeah. But yeah, I heard the nominees for Game of the Year, and it's not that they're terrible, but it also reminded me, because I was trying to think of like my list. We're getting to that point where it's like, okay, now I need to start thinking about that list. And it's like I was thinking of like 2020 games. And I was like, okay, Spiritfarer for sure, Last of Us Part 2 for sure, but I don't think Ghost of Tsushima's on that list, even though I liked it a lot, but it's 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound sack.
Yeah, I know. There was so many people when that list got revealed that was like, man, that game was so good, I really wanted to win, and I was like, man, I don't see it. Like the last half of that game for me just died. It died a death that I cannot. I was like so over that game at some point when I was playing through it, and maybe that's partially on me. The opening, however many hours of that game, gorgeous. Just absolutely gorgeous. Cinematography top notch. I totally get why it would be nominated for stuff, but boy, man, the latter half of that game is just so rough.
Here's the thing. I don't think that game would have been nearly as well received or as like having people over the moon for it if it wasn't for the fact that it came out after Last of Us Part 2, and also people were disappointed in Last of Us Part 2.
Very true.
If it had come out before Last of Us, it would have just been a blip on the radar. Or if Last of Us had been just as well regarded as the first game, it would still be a blip on the radar. It was literally the backlash, of the last release.
Like, I'm trying to think of what my top 5 games are. I think it's like Hades number 1. I think Yakuza Like a Dragon probably number 2, maybe. We're still, that still got to digest it. Then the next spots are between 13 Sentinels, because I really, really liked that game. And Kentucky Route Zero.
Okay, yeah.
And then probably Spirit Fair on the end there. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's before we factor in like other games that we played that didn't come out this year for our, for our.
Oh yeah. If I throw Persona 5 Royal in there, it fucks my whole, like Spirit Fair probably gets bumped. Like, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, I'm going off just things off 2020.
Yeah, that's what I was, trying to think of. It's like, and part of it is that like, I barely played Doom Eternal. I've been thinking about going back to it, but I really do feel that game is not meant for me on a controller. That game is meant for mouse and keyboard.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's meant for anybody on a controller. Now I know I've seen people play it on controller. I know it's possible to do.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the optimal way to play it.
No, so. That's one of those games where I see it up there and I'm like, yeah, that probably deserves to be up there. I don't care about it, but I get why it's there. Yeah. And then Last of Us, that's another one. I'm like, I get why that's there. But yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is the one where I'm like, I don't know if that should be up there. I get, and Final Fantasy VII Remake, I get why it's there. I know a lot of people liked it. I know you and I we didn't really like it, but like, I get why it's there. It's just one of those things.
I think it's only there because it's been kind of a lackluster year, partially because of COVID, partially because everybody was kind of waiting for the next gen to happen. So I think a lot of stuff was, even Sony, like last year, they were like, yeah, we don't have anything to show. So, we're not going to show anything.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know. I know, like I said, you and I didn't like it, but I know a lot of people really liked that.
But don't get me wrong, it's a good game, but
it's fine.
It is extremely mediocre in a lot of places that I think when people go back to it, they're going to be like, I forgot about all this shit, and like these side quests are dog shit, and that's so much of the game, and and also like we'll get to it in a little bit with the PS5, but like I know you didn't do it a lot because you didn't care about the Moogle kid, but like every time that you had to walk through that passage to get to him, and also that area behind him because there's side quests that you have to do back there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's excruciating. And
gotta hide those loads, man. Yeah. Gotta hide them. Can't let them see the loads. Must hide them like they're something. I don't know what they are. They're bad. Yes. Gotta hide them. Can't let people see them.
No.
Man, even if you put a load screen, like the fact that there's a load screen between both of those things is just stupid.
Because it's not even a large area.
It's not a large area. That's what I mean. It's just this little, for that game, like that's a pretty small piece of the game. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's there.
I am going to try to play it again. I've been wanting to play it again just to see if I click with the battle system more. But also, I'm going to see if it gets like a next gen upgrade, and I might, try to go through. I probably won't play the whole thing again, but at least a chunk of it. I'm curious now that I know what that game is. Maybe I'll appreciate it more. Because, like I said, like after we did our spoiler cast and I really like chewed on what the game was, I started to get really excited for what it could mean for the rest of it.
I remember saying it when we did the spoiler cast, but I'm like, this game could be genius. I just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, I remember saying that, and I still think that. Like, I won't know until the next game comes out. If they flub the next one and flub wherever they're going, then fuck that shit. but they could I could be like, holy shit, that was really cool what they did here, and I just didn't know where they were going. So that's awesome. But yeah, that being said, I'm really rooting for Hades. Go Hades, you deserve to win. That's a fucking awesome video game.
I was really surprised to see it nominated for so many things, only because I haven't had a chance to play it. And I mean, again, like I'm super looking forward to playing it. I might actually break down and buy it for like PC or Switch. It doesn't seem like a game that I want to play on the Switch though. That seems like a really like precise controller needing game.
It is very much. I wouldn't want to play that on Joy-Cons. You want a good controller for it. I mean, you can play it analog stick. I played it with analog stick. It's perfect. It actually fits an analog stick pretty well for how it moves and the isometric viewpoint of it and stuff like that. But it is very fast paced and like all that stuff. That game is so good. God, that I've never it's been a while since like where I played a game and it was just like, I just want to play this because I'm having so much fun. Not because I want to, well, I did want to get the next thing a lot of the time. That was like a little part of it, but I was just like, I just want to go through a run and see what I get. Like, we'll just go from there. Whatever happens, happens.
Right.
And the music's good. The fact that every time you go back to the little home base and you like, just, it never stops being different. You always get there and you're like, what's going on now? Let's see what, and then sometimes like shit's popping off. You're like, oh, cool. Awesome. This is great. They put so much work into that thing. I hope to God they win. They probably won't. It'll probably be Final Fantasy VII Remake because fuck me. But
yeah, my gut is Last of Us Part 2, but I almost feel that like even people who reviewed it and loved it at the time, like almost would not want to vote for it because of the backlash, which I think is dumb because
I could see that one winning too. I wouldn't be upset by that one winning.
I wouldn't either. We'll definitely be talking about that for Game of the Year next year because it's definitely on my list.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is anymore, but it's definitely on there unless like the stuff that I play between now and the end of hiatus ends up like bumping it way down, which could happen. You never know. That's the thing I love about catching up on all the games during hiatus is like you never know. Like I might have missed something really amazing that I didn't even think to play until then.
Right.
Time to talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
And that's not me making fun of the size of the PS5s, but we are going to talk about the PS5. So,
okay.
Because I know like it's kind of late as far as like impressions go for podcasts, and if you listen to a lot of video game podcasts, you've probably heard this all before. So if you want to skip this, that's fine. I do have things to say that are not what you've heard. But
interesting.
Take that how you want it. So before we get started, I need to tell you my mindset when I first hooked up my system, Justin.
Okay.
Thanks to my friend Blissy, I got a pre-order from Target like 5 minutes after it went up the first day. Right. But since then, I've been worried that it's either going to get canceled or it's like, oh, it's not even going to get here for like a week or something because, COVID's weird and you just, who knows, right? But then it seemed like, as we were getting closer, so many outlets, like so many like, big YouTubers and then media people and stuff were getting systems and, there was definitely reports of they were out being shipped to, the warehouses and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. So this is going to be a normal launch and a normal launch for like a big company like Target, like they've got those systems like a good week before. And, so I was like, okay, this should probably ship like a day or two before the day of launch. I should get it on launch day. Cool. And then so like the day that I'm thinking it should ship, I'm just constantly checking my orders like, okay, it hasn't been canceled, but nothing's happening. I was actually following a Resetera thread where tons of people who ordered from Target were like, I haven't gotten any update. And then it finally like left like the Target warehouse like super late, like the day before launch, right? Like it was like late evening and I was like, well, shoot. And then the next day, like it got to the FedEx thing. I got like a thing at like 6 a.m. and said, out for delivery. And then immediately it said delayed until tomorrow. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Nice.
So there was already that. I was already like, man, and like I expected it to be delayed. So and I actually thought I wouldn't even get it for the weekend. So I was like, okay, well, if it's coming tomorrow, that's fine. And it was Thursday, right? The day the system came out. And I'm working in the office that day. I'm really getting excited. I'm listening to like podcasts talking about, their first impressions and stuff. And I was thinking like, man, like when was the last time I was really excited for a launch? And I was like, oh, right. It was the PS4 because I got that at launch. And then it made me remember that I was living with my mom when the PS4 came out. And I fell apart at my desk. And then all of a sudden the PS5 did not matter anymore. Like I was like, I didn't care. Like all of my excitement for the system went right out the window, and I was like, right, that, okay, yeah, it's because sometimes, you know, you'll get like something that you're looking forward to, and it kind of pushes that into the background just enough. And then, but then it can just come right back, and then it's just right there at the top of your head again. And that's what happened. And so when it came in like, oh no, okay, so yeah, so here's the other thing. I didn't tell this story yet. So Friday, you know, I'm working here at home, and I was like, okay, well, that's better, because at least I'm here. I can make sure that, like, I'm here, right? Because I was worried about it getting stolen, because, you know, people know the system is coming out. It's a massive box. So you know what it is if you're, like, you know, going around to, like, apartments and neighborhoods looking for this stuff, right? So I'm like checking all day long, and I'm like, I have notifications from FedEx, but I'm still checking everything manually. And I'm like, okay.
I've been there.
Yeah. And so it was like delivered at 1:46. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me go down and pick it up. Go downstairs. Nothing's on my doorstep.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what? And I kind of looked around, but then I went upstairs because I didn't have my shoes on. I went upstairs, and I was like, maybe I read it wrong. Maybe it said it was like, you know, out for delivery at 1:46 and it's coming later. It's like, nope. It said that it didn't need a signature. And I was like, oh no. No. And so I like ran downstairs, like I put my shoes on, I go out, I didn't even have my mask on, I didn't have my keys, I didn't have my wallet. I'm like looking around trying to see if I can find like somebody in a car with like a big box that's leaving, or if I can see the FedEx truck. I'm checking other like apartments near me because maybe it went to the wrong apartment. And then I'm like, oh, maybe they dropped it off at the front office, which the office isn't accepting packages anymore, but maybe they just left it in front of the office, which is even worse because I realized I didn't have my ID on me to say like, no, that's supposed to be mine. But anyway, I'm like not running, but I'm like super brisk walk towards the office, and I get really close to the front of the property, and then I see the fucking FedEx truck pulling in. I was like, you assholes, you were like trying to like make your numbers look better by like saying that you delivered it early. I was just
gonna say, yeah, they do that all the time. Like it's like I've had, I remember one time I was sitting outside having a cigarette, and my phone went off that they delivered my package. I was like, no, you didn't, man. I'm sitting right fucking here. Like, you know, nothing happened. And then they pulled in my driveway. Right. That was when I bought my, my base back here. Like, I remember that happening. I was like, motherfuckers, all right, whatever. Yeah, they, for whatever reason, they do that shit. I know that paranoia. I remember having that with, I'm trying to think of which two things I had. It was coming back to me. I remember having that with my PC when that was getting delivered.
Right, I could see that.
Because I was like, that was like a giant, heavy fucking box with like all this shit. I was like, I gotta be here for it. I gotta make sure it gets here. And I think the other one, not so much. No, I wasn't too worried about my TV. I think the other one was like my other base that I have sitting over here. Not this one. I ordered a lot of bases through the mail. But I remember getting that one. I was like, it's this big long fucking box. Of course, it's this fucking like weird musical instrument. I think it even like says stuff on the fucking box. I was like, I gotta make sure that nobody gets this thing. Luckily, like where I used to live, they were pretty good about delivering it straight to my door. Mm-hmm. Here they do that too. So I'm not super worried about it, I guess. But yeah. Still, I know that paranoia of like, it's got to get here. I hope it gets here.
I'm sure that I felt exactly what a parent does when they can't find their child. I'm sure it was the exact same feeling.
That sounds right to me.
I was walking around going, PS5, PS5, PS5. That's
Jason.
Thank you. Okay, so, you know, again, still not excited about it. And also, so after I got off work that day, I opened up the big box just to make sure that like it looked intact, right? And I was like, okay, box seems fine. Put it on the floor. We record the podcast, right? I don't even touch it. Saturday, don't even touch it. Like that's when I started playing Katana Zero. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to play Persona. And this came out. Let me try this. And I played that for a few hours, and I watch some YouTube and shit. I
just remember the text coming in from you like, man, Katana Zero is fucking awesome. And I was like, I told you. I always reply to told you.
Yeah.
Told you it was awesome. I know.
And so then Sunday rolls around, and it's like afternoon. And I'm like, all right. if I'm going to do this, I should probably do it on a day off, because if I try to do this like on a Monday when I've got this like 4-hour podcast to edit, I'm not going to be able to really do anything with it for like the rest of, at least until Wednesday when the episode goes up. So, open it up, get it set up and go through the process, and I start to transfer, so one thing I did before the system even came in, I went on my PS4 and I deleted everything that I did not need. I only kept like my save files, and I left Persona and Final Fantasy 14 on there. Oh, and Yakuza, because that had been recently installed. Everything else I was like, I don't need, because I knew that the transfer was going to take a while. I was like, I don't need to transfer all this stuff. Yeah. Which will bring me to like the whole memory issue thing, because.
Oh yeah. Heard some things.
Yeah, but not an issue for me. I can see if it's an issue for people who have like bandwidth caps or internet caps. But yeah, so I'm getting it set up and everything. And I think I was editing the podcast, and I was like, no, let me just go ahead and play a little bit so I can at least get it out of my system. And I was like, let me get my Pulse 3D headset and let me get that set up. And cause I had opened it like, the week before just to like take a look at it and everything. And I remembered I'd taken the USB dongle and I put it on my coffee table. I don't know why. And I had left it there. And so I go to like hook up the thing. And it's like, where's the USB dongle? Can't find the USB dongle. And I tore my living room up looking for this thing. Cause I'm like, one of the cats must have like batted it away. And, so I'm looking under couches and I'm looking around the entertainment center, looking everywhere for this thing. And I'm like, or I accidentally threw it away in the trash because I'm a slob. And like, when I'm, clearing off the coffee table, it might have just like fallen into a trash bag. Yeah. And I was trying to like see if I could get a replacement one, but they're not even available. And I'm like, God damn it. And so I turned it off. I was like, I'm so fucking pissed right now. Like, I don't even want to play it. So I went back to editing. Yeah. And then I came back. So that's the mindset that I was in when I first started my PS5, Justin. You need to know this.
Okay.
I was angry. I was no longer excited for it. And I was just like, okay, let's just try this shit and get it over with. So I fire it up and I go to Astro's Playroom, because that's like, I was like, okay, this seems like a good way to like experience the controller and everything. Yeah. And I wanted to try that first. Justin?
Yeah.
The PS5 is magical.
Cool.
I have not been this impressed with a system at launch maybe ever.
Interesting.
And it's so interesting for me to hear other people talking about it, because everybody seems so blasé. They're just like, like it's a new system, it's really big, and there's nothing to play on it, and the controller's kind of cool. That controller. Do you remember the first time that you played Mario 64 when you were a kid?
Yeah. At a Toys R Us.
This is the first time that I have felt like that since then.
Nice.
When I fired up Astro's Playroom, it was like being transported to another world. I became so giddy. I was like a kid again, because the controller is exactly what people have been saying, and it's so hard to describe, because it literally is like, hey, if you're walking on metal, it feels like you're walking on metal. If you walk on wood, it feels like you're walking on wood. And that sounds so stupid, but it's so amazing when you get to do it.
Yeah. I remember around maybe before, I think it was a little before the systems actually launched. Giant Bomb had their like big thing where they were showing off the stuff for it. And I remember they couldn't show the UI. They had to like beep out the UI or whatever. That shit was hilarious. But I remember it was Jeff and Brad were sitting there, and I remember Jeff like firing up Astro's Playroom. And he was like, I can't explain to you how cool this is, but like you just have to take my word for it that doing this is really cool. And he's just like showing like the clicking of the triggers and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, it's probably one of those things I'm going to have to like do for myself at some point.
And I think I had said that like back when the system was unveiled, where people were like, oh, well, it doesn't really look like that much of an improvement. And I was like, I think this is going to be a situation where you actually have to play it before you understand. Yeah. And that's 100% what it is. There's a level in Astro's Playroom where it starts to rain and he pulls out this umbrella and you feel the drops on the umbrella. And then, and then as you get further into the level, it starts to pour and it feels different. It's so indescribable. Now here, I've heard a lot of people saying, well, the haptics are okay, but really it's the adaptive triggers that are the thing. I don't really care for the triggers all that much, to be perfectly honest. I think that is the haptics that is like truly next level. To the point that when I played, and I'll talk more about Astro, I'll talk more about Spider-Man in a bit, but when I switch over to Spider-Man, they use the triggers to give you more tension when you're swinging, so it kind of feels like you feel the tension of the web, and that's kind of cool.
That makes sense. But yeah, that's neat.
I was like in this like building, and I was like walking across like this metal gangway, and I was like, I can't feel the footsteps under my feet. Like, this is bullshit. Already, I was like, I need this in all of my video games because it is like a level of immersion that I've never experienced before. And my big worry is that this is going to be the gimmick that gets used by all the companies in some capacity the first year, and then after that, only first-party studios use it, and only once in a while.
I was just gonna say, I bet that's what it's gonna devolve into.
I hope it goes the other way, where Microsoft is like, oh shit, we need to copy that right now, and then they release another controller in a year. That's what I hope happens.
You're gonna have to hope, because and the other thing is now that everything's coming out on PC, somehow they'd have to like build it into a lot of that stuff.
Well, if it's an Xbox controller, then that would be PC compatible.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, and you could do it on PlayStation 4 controllers. Well, I don't know. I don't know how a lot of that stuff works.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the thing. And Mike Falcon's going to get angry at this, but I fully believe that what's inside the controller is just like tiny little fairies that are doing magic inside it, and that's how the DualSense 5 works, because that's the only explanation that I can come up with.
Yeah,
it's Fey folk.
No idea how it works. I'm sure magic is real and science is bullshit.
Yes.
I mean, 100%. Never been so sure of anything in my life.
Yes.
No, I exactly.
Okay. So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's tough. It's tough because I really do think that's going to happen. I think the first party studios are probably going to like really do some really cool shit with it, right? Yeah. Like, the Sony studios all over are going to be like, yep, we're going to make this a thing. And then like, because I remember like when I first played the PlayStation 4, and I think I got it like a year after release or something, or a year after it came out, something like that. And I remember, playing just some dumb game. I think it was, of all games, I think it was a Dynasty Warriors game. And I never heard the microphone on the controller go off or whatever, the speaker, and all of a sudden like something happened on the speaker. I was like, that sounds like shit. What the fuck, man? And I was like, what the hell are we doing? That's so weird. I
always liked that. It was used to good effect in Shadow of Mordor, and there's a couple games that use it really well, but
I was just going to say, it was just this one example. It was a bad first impression because their use of it was bad. But like, and then I can't remember what game it was. I think it was, I don't remember what game it was. There was another game where it happened. I was like, oh, that thing's actually pretty cool. How it actually like does the little beeps and boops on there and saves it from there. That's pretty neat. I just had a bad first impression of this fucking thing. And, oh man. But yeah, like, I have a feeling it'll be like that, where like third party studios like try to utilize it, but don't quite know the whole technology behind it. So they kind of like, when you shoot the guns, like it'll jam up or something. But like, you can't do that on the other controller. And if you're going on both sides, it's going to be difficult to, I don't know.
It presents a problem for design, but I'm hoping that it's like an easy thing for them to implement, where they don't have to do a lot of work on their end. Like maybe it's more on the system level. They just have to like say like, this is like, it automatically detects this type of terrain. You just have to tell the computer that it's this type of terrain. You just have to flag it as such. And then the controller does the rest of the work. I don't know.
I don't know either.
So let me get back to Astro's Playroom, because a lot of people are just saying like, oh, it's a fun little tech demo and it's fine. Yeah. This game is phenomenal. And I know that they've had this character for a while. Like, it's usually in like, I think they had it with like the iToy, and then like I think there was like they had the VR game, which was supposed to be really good, but it's always been like this character that kind of shows off the tech of the PS or the PlayStation. So I hadn't really experienced him until now. He is an adorable character, and I honestly wanted this to be a fully fledged game. Like I would buy a full priced game of Astro. Like I think he needs to be the new mascot for the PlayStation. He's that good of a character. And like there's stuff in the game that is just very inventive and very cool. Now they're trying to show you everything the controller can do. So there's like some motion control bullshit in there and stuff. But I will say the motion controls are much better here than they were before. So like it's actually easier to control. Okay. But it's just super inventive and it's super charming. Has some amazing music. I told Angelo, I was like, yo, you need to check out the Astro's Playroom soundtrack. And he was like, yeah? I was like, oh yeah. Next day he was like, okay, yeah, this is really good. There's some bangers in here. And there's 4 worlds and they're all based around like the features of the PlayStation 5. So there's like one based on the cooling fan. There's one based on the SSD. There's one based on the GPU and there's one based on, I think just the speed of the processor. But when you're in the GPU one, like the song is actually the GPU singing about what it does. And that's really good. And you actually find the lyrics hidden like in the level. It's just nice. Really cool. And also like, it's this big love letter to like the entire history of PlayStation. So for people like me who have been there since the beginning, that's really fantastic. Where it's like, they do some deep cuts in here, man. Like the little bots are like they're like doing these little, like they're recreating scenes from games. They've got a Fat Princess reference in there. Like that's how deep this goes.
I remember watching Giant Bomb play through it, and I remember them getting to a part where it was like, I think that was the PlayStation 4 UI or whatever. And it was like a level dedicated to that. And like they turned the noises of the PlayStation 4 UI into like the music and like expanded upon all that stuff. And I remember him like them like going over like, what is this reference right here? And then they would like I think it's Alucard or stuff like that. They would just, I was like, that's such a cool little, like, it's just this weird like love letter to video games, which is really neat. Yeah. So.
And I was really impressed that they even were able to get like third party stuff in there. Cause obviously all the Sony stuff is there, but yeah, like, there's a Final Fantasy reference. There's Crash, there's Spyro. There's Tomb Raider in there. There's a really great Devil May Cry one. That's one of my favorite ones.
Nice.
That stuff is really neat. And then also as you're going through the levels, you're finding these hidden artifacts and they're all geared around each generation of PlayStation. And when you gain the artifacts, they go into this room and this room is slowly being filled up with like art, like hardware. And then also you're getting these puzzle pieces that make this big mural that illustrates the history of PlayStation. It's really cool. And then as someone who spent so much time like immersed in PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 hardware, like it hit me in the feels in a way because like these, like when you see the systems, like when you can move them around, they look photorealistic. I'm like, that is exactly the first model of the PlayStation. Like that is exactly how it looks.
down to like the parts on the back and shit like that are like, so I remember seeing that stuff. That shit is really cool. It's such a cool thing that it's just a game that it just comes with the system, right?
It just comes with the system. I would have paid cash money for it. It is so
that's
good.
Fucking awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Like I'm shocked that hasn't been a thing more often. Like I'm glad
with digital games being a thing, I don't know why every system doesn't come packed in with a game at launch.
With something, right? Like just hey, here's something to play. Like just a cool little thing we did. It doesn't have to be much or just
I mean, I finished the game. It probably took me like a total of like 4 or 5 hours. I want to go back and get the platinum, but it was a thing where I was like, I would play through one of the worlds and I was like, I need to go to Spider-Man because I need to savor this. Like I didn't want to do it all in one jump because I was just like, this is too good. And then I've been playing Spider-Man Miles Morales and that game is fantastic. Nice. It looks incredible. And again, like I think people are just like, it looks a little bit better. It's so amazing. And it's like, so I played that for a while. I'll talk about it a little in depth here in a second, but then, Middle-earth Shadow of War was like a free PlayStation Plus game this month. And I was like, let me download that and see what it looks like. Cause I've been meaning to go back since they took out the microtransaction stuff anyway. And so I start up the game and everything. I'm like, whoa, this is a leap. Like I could tell immediately this is like, all of a sudden it looked like, oh, this is really last gen. And that's, that game is only a couple years old and it still looks phenomenal. But it's like after playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, I was like, okay, you can definitely tell the difference, especially when you go like back down. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's a much shorter game than the original Spider-Man, which I like. It's nice to play a game like this where it doesn't feel bloated. Cause like,
nice.
I've only played it for a few hours. I'm like 33% done. Well, no, I don't know about the storyline, but as far as completion of everything, I'm like 33% already.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And just like, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but like there's two masked characters that Miles knows in his personal life. But he finds out the first time that he encounters them who they are, and I was like, thank you. Thanks for not dragging this obvious thing out for like 30 hours. Right?
Yeah,
it was
they
such
love doing that too.
It was so refreshing, and I was like, okay, let's get to it, right? This is really cool.
Yeah.
And him as a character, like I've been with Miles since the beginning in the comics. Like when I heard when he was coming out, I immediately got his series, and I've always loved him as a character. He's fantastic. I love the way he animates. Somehow they were able to put personality into him to where he definitely does not feel like Peter Parker. When he's web swinging, he definitely feels like he doesn't have as much control because he's newer to it. And so that's something really cool where it's like when you are transitioning from like web to the next shot, it feels like he's like not completely sure that he's going to be able to make that next web swing. And it's like, that's really neat.
Right.
Same thing with his moveset. Like he's just got like a different flow to him, and his whole like internal monologue is really good. And so I'm really enjoying that, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the load times, because that's another magical thing. And I know, like you said, like SSD, like this has been a thing on computer, but from what I understand, like the way that the PS5 is doing it, that's not the way that you've been able to do it on like PC games.
Right. The PC just speeds it up a little bit, and it is a lot faster, but like if you build around that sort of thing, then yeah, I'm sure it's a lot fucking different.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to it, to be perfectly honest, because like so I've been turning off the PlayStation 5 completely, and then I found out that like there's some issues with rest mode, so I'm definitely turning it off completely. So I'm not able to automatically jump right back into the game every time that I want to play it. But even so, I timed it. It's 26 seconds from when I boot the game up to when I'm in the game. And then, and so then, like if I have the system on, and let's say I go to Astro's Playroom and I play that for a little bit, and then I go back to Spider-Man, I hit the button, and then it's like, boom, it's there. And I'm like, this is sorcery. Again, Feyfolk. That's the only explanation.
Right.
And again, I think that is going to be that, and the controller, I think, are what really make it the next generation, to the point that I can see so many ways where like game design changes in a fundamental way for the better. Like we talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake, where like you don't have to go through that little gap anymore to like get to the Moogle kid, right? Like that just wouldn't be designed that way.
Pull the door open very long and then push it up.
Yeah.
And now you're in the, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like in God of War was notorious for doing that shit with doors.
Definitely.
I do want to ask you about one thing in Spider-Man, because I remember you tweeting something out and I thought it was hilarious. Where you were fighting a guy who was stuck inside of a truck.
I have seen some glitches in this game that I did not notice in the original.
Yeah, Truck Chan, the ultimate final boss. Because immediately when I seen it, that was what popped in my head. This is like, that's the true final boss of the game. Now you must fight the man in the truck that you cannot possibly touch.
Well, luckily I was still able to touch him through the truck.
Yeah,
which
it
was. You
got around it, but still, that's great.
And that was, it was a little disturbing, because that was the second, like, kind of progress impeding bug that I had found in like just like a less than hour session that night. And I was like, okay, this game definitely came in hot. Cause I don't remember encountering really anything like that in the Spider-Man game from a couple years ago. Maybe I did and I just don't remember, but
yeah. That's all the questions I have about Spider-Man.
Okay.
I'm trying to think here. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, again, going back to like the haptics in the controller, and then thinking about that Unreal 5 demo that they released like earlier in the year. And I really feel that like you combine that engine with that controller, and I think that that's next level. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to say, I found the goddamn dongle for my headset. It was in the box. I had put it back in the box, and for some reason when I looked at it the first time, I didn't see it. So felt like the biggest
Nice.
idiot. But I will say that like the 3D audio was really awesome too. Like,
Nice.
I've never done anything with 3D audio before, and I know that it's been a thing, but like when I played Shadow of War, it was actually really cool in there because when you first encounter the spider lady, like she's kind of talking around you and she's whispering, and it felt like it was, she was actually moving around you. And I just did a mission in Miles Morales where I was trying to find this guy's stolen car, and you like hit the key fob to like make it go off, and I could actually pinpoint where it was based on the audio, and that was really neat. So
that is cool.
Yeah, I'm really digging that. So yeah, I'm just super pleased with it.
That's cool. Okay, here's a question I have about the PlayStation 5. Yeah. You and I seem to are like maybe the only two. I doubt we're the only two people that feel this way, but like it feels like it sometimes, where we kind of like not the biggest fans of the PlayStation 4 UI sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like we're the only ones that think that way.
Yeah, we're the ones that actually like the Xbox UI, even when it was like supposedly like bad, right? We both preferred that to what the PlayStation 4 was doing.
Yeah. How do you find the UI on this one? Have you messed with it at all?
Oh yeah, I've messed with it a lot. Okay. Parts of it are really great.
Okay.
A lot of it is really shitty in ways that does not make any sense to me. In ways where it's like, this wasn't a problem on the last one, but you made it a problem on this one. I don't understand why you thought this was a better solution. One of the obvious ones you've probably heard is that you can't turn the system off by holding down the PlayStation home button and waiting for it to bring up the turn system off option, which is also how you turn off the Xbox systems. You have
Always has been how I done it.
Yeah, you have to press the button once, and then it brings up your main guide at the bottom of the screen, and you have to button down and then all the way over to the right, and there it is. So if you're talking about number of button presses, it goes from 2 to like 10. Which doesn't, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not a lot of time.
It's not game breaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, one of those things in like a future system update. I'm sure they'll go, okay, yeah, we, maybe overthought that one.
As far as like, cause I actually do like to check my friends list when I log in. I don't play multiplayer, but I like to see what my friends are doing. I'll compare trophies.
I always find it amazing that you know what I'm playing all the time. Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah, because I'm always when I'm on my systems.
I never check. I never care. I never look at what anyone's doing. And then Julian's always like, yeah, I seen you were playing. I'm like, how did you know I didn't tell you? It's so crazy to me. That's a me thing, because I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, because you're like, how do you know that I only need 2 trophies on Persona? It's like, because I compared them, motherfucker. Like, but sometimes I'll do it because if I'm playing a game at the same time as somebody else, I want to see like, well, how far are they? And so you can kind of tell by like hidden trophies, like, okay, like,
that makes sense.
Because there's been times when you and I have been playing the same thing at the same time, and I'm like, okay, Justin is definitely like, about 2 chapters ahead of me, because I can tell from like the achievements that he's already got that I don't have. And I like to do that stuff.
That makes sense. No, that's cool. I never look into it, I guess. Yeah. I'm like, especially when I play games, and this might be like one of those things that like is a reason why I get through stuff so fast sometimes, or it seems that way, is because I'm like in such a bubble when I'm playing games. Like, I am not paying attention to anything else.
Right.
Like, there is nothing else going on except for when my dog comes up and barks at me. That's about the only thing that I stop for. And I have to go have cigarettes every now and then. But that's really it. But like, other than that, I'm in a bubble, and that is the only thing I'm doing. Like right now, like it's Yakuza all the time. Sometimes I'm playing podcasts while I'm doing it, but that's because I'm grinding and I have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of all the music in Yakuza. It's like, the music in Yakuza is good. Like, it has a couple bangers in it. Like, there's a couple songs, and it sucks, man. It pisses me off. The best track in Yakuza, I can't even tell you where it is because it's a spoiler. The best track in Yakuza, I can't fucking find.
You just gotta give it some time. That'll all be out there in like a month or 2.
But it came out in Japan. I can't even find it. I can find like the soundtrack, and I can't find this one song that I'm like, dude, I love this song. It's so, I could go get in the thing to do it anytime I want, but I want to like listen to it on headphones, and I can't. Bothers me.
Yeah, there's a Ghost of Tsushima track that I wanted to use for the music episode, but I can't find it because when I was playing the level, I was like, this is an amazing song, and this is definitely going in there, and then I can't find it. Like,
Yeah. A lot of times with certain music soundtracks, I bet money with the Ghost of Tsushima soundtrack, you may have to just go through it song by song, because sometimes what happens with soundtracks is like the part you hear is actually in the middle of the track or whatever.
Because it's swelled to that point, and that's when it like is no longer background music, and now it's like actually like part of the scene. Yeah, you're right.
And that's the part you recognize. Yeah, I had that with Witcher a few times where I was like, what? I know the song because I was trying to find some one particular track for a music thing we're going to do. And I was like, I know where it's at. I know, like, right, I could walk to the part where the song plays, but where is the actual song? And like, eventually, like, I hunted it down. I was like, that's it there. Okay. Thank you. It was like a fucking part.
I just listened to the whole Witcher 3 soundtrack at work the other day because I was looking for the track that I wanted for the music episode. Like, okay, there it is.
I've been taking a weird approach to the music episode. It's just inside baseball. This is what I've been doing, and you could edit this out if you want. I don't care. But I've been like, especially for the early years of this generation, I forget a lot of stuff.
Oh, same. So yeah, definitely.
What I decided to do was like kind of look at lists of like what were the good ones for this year. Like not only like game. I've been looking at the games, but like also like, what were the best soundtracks that came out this year? That's how I like discovered like Transistor and shit. I was like, because I was like, oh, I play with this track. I was like, whoa, this shit's good. Right. Like, this is really good. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna like really make an effort here on this. I'm really looking forward to closing shop on that pretty soon here. Oh, I got way too much music.
In like this year, I've definitely been like, I've had a folder where it's like, okay, I need to remember this. Like, it started with Death Stranding because I was like, I need to remember this, and like I'm going to completely forget, so let me just grab this track right now and just put it in the folder. And I've been doing that with like games this year, and then as I remember stuff, but I need to go back and look at stuff that I played in the earlier days of the generation, and find
that's been the hardest stuff for me to remember is like that early shit, man. And there's a lot of stuff because this generation, like 2014 is when it started, and like 13. I didn't. Well, yeah, 13. Yeah, even then, for you, I wasn't. I really wasn't playing games that as much as I am now. Like it wasn't that I was on break. I was just fucking broke.
Right.
So I wasn't playing a lot of them. So like it's been good to go back and see what like even came out in some of those years. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode. I could pull up. I don't know how many fucking tracks I have on this folder. It's a lot.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure that we have them submitted at least like a few days before we record, because that way we can start listening to them. I plan on doing that over the Thanksgiving break. Excellent.
Getting it finalized. I got most of it pretty good. Yeah. So
cool. To continue about your question about the UI. So I like the whole like card thing. Like I haven't actually messed with like, cause the big thing that they had introduced was like games will have challenges and you can just like hop into that particular challenge and it'll take you right there. I haven't done any of that yet, mainly because like that's not really the way that I approach my games. Like I kind of just like, I'll probably do that now that I've finished Astro's Playroom, because I do want to get all the trophies, and I'm like, well, let me see what these challenges are, and maybe that'll get me looking in certain areas that I missed things. So let me go ahead and do that. But so the cards are great for that, but they also use that for the trophies. And as someone who likes to go through the trophy list, that is terrible. Because now it goes from left to right. It doesn't go from up to down. So if you want to see the whole trophy list, you have to scroll way further because these cards are huge. So like, on the vertical thing where there's just like the little entries, you can see almost an entire game's trophy list without scrolling very much.
It's not too bad. Yeah.
Where here, you're only seeing maybe 6 of the trophies on the screen at one time. And also the descriptions of them are cut off because the card, is not as wide as the screen wide entry that they were programmed for. So for me, someone who actually is like, well, let me go see what trophy I'm missing and see what I need to do. It's like, I don't know what this is. I can't read it. So you have to button into it. And again, it's not
It's not a big.
It's not a
It's
big
not the
deal,
world's
but it's like
biggest deal, but it's annoying.
yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like this is too many button presses when this wasn't an issue on the last system.
Yeah.
So, but the nice thing is that like everything's super fast. I do like the design of like when you turn the system on and just like the home screen, like that's really pretty because like the game tiles are much bigger. It now breaks. It's like you have your games tab and your media tab. So that means that if if you're one of those people who like watches a lot of like Netflix and Hulu and watches like, movies on your PlayStation, those don't get clogged up in like the thing, like, cause if this is more a thing on my Xbox, but like, cause that's where I watch all my media, but it's like,
that makes sense.
Here's the game that I'm playing, but then I watch something on Hulu, I watch something on YouTube, I watch something somewhere else, and then all of a sudden, I went to the store and I went to Game Pass, so now it's no longer on the home screen. So then I have to go launch it from the actual, again, not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I like the way the PlayStation 5 has it where it's like, no, your games kind of just stay at the ones that you've been playing recently.
Right.
One last thing I'll say, and then if you have any more questions, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap up. But
yeah, I'm trying to think, but I'm not sure if I do or not, but we'll see.
Yeah. So I played 14. That was actually the first PlayStation 4 game that I played, partially because I wanted to make sure that it worked, because if it didn't, then I was going to have to keep my PlayStation 4 hooked up.
You mean 5 game? It was the first PS5 game you played, or 4?
First PlayStation 4 game that I played on the PlayStation 5.
On the play. Okay, got it. Understood.
First
Okay.
backwards compatible game.
Okay, got it.
The first thing was that, so the PlayStation 5 does everything in HDR by default if you have an HDR television. So like the menus are all in HDR, which is really nice because like my TV, I think it was like one of the earlier ones that had HDR. So it's real jarring when it transitions from non-HDR to HDR. It's like the screen goes black and like, and then it says HDR on, right? And it's real. Yeah. It's real distracting. But now because the PlayStation 5 UI is in HDR, that's all cool.
That's cool.
But the first time that I fired up 14, I was like, this looks terrible. Like all the colors are washed out. What's going on? And then I realized it's because 14 does not have an HDR setting.
Yeah.
And so, but even though like on the system setting, I had it set to automatic to where it should switch automatic, based on what it is. It didn't do that. So I had to actually go to the system level, turn off HDR, and then the game looked great. But there's already been a patch, and that seems to have been fixed. Because when we played 14 last night, I didn't have that problem again. So that's
nice.
Cool. So the Series X, like, I've been seeing all of the really amazing updates that they've done to backwards compatible games. So I expect that from there. Like, oh, this actually not only loads faster, but it plays better, it looks better. And there's also games that are getting like full on next gen upgrades for free. Like Witcher 3 is one of those that's getting that. Again, cause they already got one for the 4K systems last gen. So I wasn't expecting that from the PlayStation 5 because they had been so cagey about the backwards compatibility anyway. So I was like, I just hope that this runs on this system because, this is a game that I'm actively playing.
Right.
It runs at 60 frames per second just out by default, and It hurts my eyes.
Yeah, I know. I remember you tweeting that and being like, this is one of those things you're gonna have to get used to, unfortunately, because I don't see this going away. This is just how games are transitioning now.
Because now I'm starting to be able to tell the difference, right? Because I've always said like I can't tell the difference in frame rate, but like now I can tell it. I can tell when it's 60 frames. I can't tell when it's like below 30 frames. I was watching all these like video reviews of Spider-Man, and they were like, okay, here it is in graphics mode, and here it is in performance mode, and I was like, oh, performance mode doesn't look right. No, I don't like that. And same thing with 14. I was like, no, this isn't right. Like and the funny thing is that my boss, Ben at Gamefellas, he's one of those rare people that gets motion sickness from first person shooters. And he would say, there was one game that he played and he was like, I can't play it. It's too smooth. And I think I understand. I think that's what it is. The game is too smooth and it does weird things to my brain in a way that I do not like. Now I will say that when we played it last night, it wasn't as bad, so maybe it is something that I just have to get used to and will get used to.
I think so. But I think so.
I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, oh, I need to play it in performance mode. No, to me, it's the same thing as if you are watching, I know you're not a big movie guy, but like people who play their movies in the 128, like that stuff
Oh God, I'm the biggest advocate against motion smoothing.
Okay,
I think
thank you.
it looks so weird.
Yeah,
No,
but that's how 60 frames looks to me.
I get it. When it comes to cinema, for whatever reason, I think we've talked about this before. When it comes to cinema, like 30 frames per second is just like, that makes sense to me
Right.
because like, I don't know why, it just does. But when it comes to video games, like I like a high frame rate.
Right.
Like I think
And maybe for me, it comes down to the fact that like, since I play so many like cinematic games, you know, with like lots of cinematic cutscenes and stuff, that's what I want.
I think there are certain games that could benefit from cutting down the frame rate in certain spots. If you're going to, for that cinematic feel, that's where you probably want that thing. But games that are going for like immersion type stuff, like high frame rate is where it's at, I think, because like there's something about like even like playing Skyrim with like a ton of mods and it's just all in 60 and like everything's just so smooth and going well, and it's just like you feel like it's right. You can reach through the TV and like touch things, and like I love that feeling.
Right.
So like, and that kind of really comes with a high frame rate. Like I've become a stickler for it. Like I notice every time Yakuza like takes a shit on me, but like I don't care so much about Yakuza because it's a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
Like if it was like really high action, like that frame rate shit would piss me off.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I'd be like, nah.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of the Digital Foundry videos, you know, because they get so in the weeds on that stuff, and they were talking, like I really wanted to see like, you know, the Assassin's Creed Valhalla comparison, because there really hadn't been any like actual, here's a Series X game and here's a PlayStation 5 game, same game, how do they run next to each other? And they finally had that. And they're like, yeah, well, so if you see here, like it drops a frame every so often. And I'm like, who notices that? Like I'm watching and it's like, they look the same. Like I don't understand why this is a thing. Maybe it's a thing that you feel when you're playing it, but if I'm just watching this.
I was just gonna say, it's tough to see watching it, I think, for me anyway. I don't have that sharp of an eye, like to where I can notice where it skips like a single frame or anything like that. But like the easiest way for anybody out there to test, like if a frame rate is taking a shit, and I remember watching Giant Bomb do this, and I was like, that's exactly how I've always tested it. Because they were going through old PlayStation 4 games and be like, how does this one run? And the first thing Brad would do is he would just circle the camera around real fast. And when you do that, when it's real smooth, it'll kind of just go real fast around. You'll notice it real easily. When it's skipping frames and you're doing that, it'll kind of jump. Like it'll hit a point because you're going so fast. It's the same as like if you're running through an environment. A lot of times that's what happens in Yakuza. I'll be running through an environment and all of a sudden it'll just kind of like jump just a little bit.
Right.
And like you'll kind of notice it. It's when you're getting that fast moving stuff going on. That's when you notice it. So if you spin the camera around and all of a sudden it just kind of jumps a little bit and you'll catch it. It'll jump just a little bit. That's when the frames are dropping a little bit because you're moving so fast. It's trying to take so much into account or whatever. That's the easiest way to notice that type of stuff. And that's why I remember saying this when I was talking about Skyrim. It is really something you feel more than like observe. Right. Like if you're standing still and looking at frame rate, you probably won't notice it. If it's when you start moving around really fast and stuff like that, then you're like, oh yeah, the game just feels slower than it was. Like it's tough to explain, but it is a thing. And that's why people are such sticklers for frame rate and stuff like that, especially on like fighting games and shit, because it's like, if this doesn't play in 60, like the game just feels different, you know, like,
and that's the thing is I don't even know, like, you know, because I played a lot of fighting games back in the day. It's like, so I don't know if they were all at 60 or like which, you know, a lot of those like old, like Alpha 3, for example, like, is that a 60 frame game?
Which one?
Street Fighter Alpha 3?
Alpha 3, probably the arcade one probably is.
Right.
But I
played on PlayStation mostly, so.
PlayStation probably maybe not. I'd have to look up. But I know like a lot of the arcade stuff, like that shit is probably 60. A lot of the CRT ones, and somebody's going to probably come up and like, no, you're fucking wrong. And I'm sorry, I don't know the frame rates on all these old games, my bad. But I know like there is a lot of like the older fighting games that are definitely 60 and stuff like that. Because they weren't like really demanding graphically or anything like that. But I could be wrong too. They could be 30 and fuck me. They play fine. They play. But then again, a lot of those older games are built around that frame rate too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I'll definitely, it's early days, so we'll be playing around with it. I had put down Demon's Souls as like my annual gift giving wish list, to like my friends, and cause they never know what to get me. And I was like, okay, like I have a shiny new system now. Like that's a game that I would like, but not necessarily need to buy right away. But if I get it as a gift, I would love to play it. And that one, I think the actual default settings is the 60 frames mode. So I'll play around with that and see what I think about it. And, maybe I'll have a totally different opinion. Yeah. Like after that, we'll see.
I think you played games a long time, especially on console,
exactly.
And you're used to this thing. And I am too. Like there's times where like I don't notice frame rate because like it's built around 30 or whatever. And I know that's what it is. It was really, I blame Skyrim for that shit because like I noticed it. Like,
this was the first year where you started talking about frame rate in like a big way.
Like once you put the number on the screen, like it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I got it. I understood. Like I understand screen tearing and all that shit now. Like I can catch it. And like, oh yeah, this VSync's off. I see it. I'm catching that VSync. Let's see. But yeah, I think you'll get used to it. Anyway, I forgot to ask you about this. Oh shit. What was it? I just lost it. Shit. Oh, it wasn't about that. Forget it. I forgot it. There was something we mentioned earlier and I forgot it. Oh no. Oh no.
Were we talking about, was it about the graphics? Was it about loading, frame rate?
Nope.
Bug snacks? I didn't play Bug Snacks yet.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't about Bug Snacks.
It's Bug Snacks. I am looking forward to that though.
That's right. I remember storage. We forgot to mention. You said something about how you would think that the storage would probably be a problem for people with internet caps or something like that. Right. And I forgot to ask you about that. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Is that it says on the box 825 gigabyte SSD, but when you factor in the all of the stuff that's preloaded onto the system, you get 667 gigs, which I think they made sure it was 667 and not 666. I think that was by design.
You should have leaned into that. Fuck that. Make it 666. That'd have been awesome.
And so a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, I already filled up my hard drive." Blah blah blah. And it's like when I was deleting stuff from my PlayStation 4, I was like, "Yeah, this is all stuff that I was like, maybe I'll go back to this." And they never did. And I think if you really do some soul searching as a player, if listeners have a different take on this, I definitely want to know in the comments or on Twitter. But like, I would bet, especially on PlayStation, because PlayStation is more of like, first party Sony single player stuff, that you're probably only playing one or two games at a time on that. And once you're done with them, you're probably good to delete them. And then if you really want to go back, then you can re-download it. Now, I do think that if you're a person with bandwidth or with internet data caps, that's where things become a problem, where if you need to go back and re-download like 100 gigabyte game, that's a big problem. Right. But I will say that the PlayStation downloads stuff super quick. It installs super quick, so much better than the PlayStation 4. Like, just night and day difference.
I was gonna say, you do live where there is good internet, though, so.
That's true. But even so, like, I've famously had awful experiences on the PlayStation 4.
Very true.
With downloading stuff. And as far as I can tell, that's been a universal thing as far as, like, not as bad as what I've had, but, like, I've heard that complaint from many people about how slow the PSN store is and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's very true.
So for me, like, I'm nowhere near filling up my hard drive right now, like, because I'm about to delete Shadow of War because I don't think I'm going to actually play that right now.
Right, that makes sense.
So I've only got Spider-Man, Yakuza, Persona 5, and Final Fantasy 14 on there. And then I will delete Persona 5 when I'm done with that, either because I finished the game or because I decide that I actually am rage quitting it permanently.
Right. That makes sense.
And then, so 14 will be the only thing that's staying on that hard drive. And so when I finish Spider-Man, like, that'll go. And then the next thing, right? So, like, let's say that I finish Spider-Man by Thanksgiving weekend, and then I decide I really need Immortals Phoenix Rising, right? So then I buy Immortals Phoenix Rising, that goes on the hard drive until I'm done with it, and then it's gone. So I don't think that's, because I only have a 1 terabyte hard drive for my PlayStation 4 Pro, and I've only run out of space a couple times. And again, that was only because I had downloaded like PS Plus games that I never played, or I was just like, yeah, I'll probably like want to play that again. It's like, no, I never played that again. So let me just take off this, 50 gig game.
I do that on my Xbox a lot, like where I just like at some point I'll be like, oh, I need to actually clear out space for this thing, and I'll like be going through the games. I'm like, I didn't even remember I had this game on here. Like, I need to get rid of this. Now, I will say this though, and it does scare me off of the PlayStation 5 a little bit, and I kind of want to wait and see if they up the storage on it, and not because like I can't delete things as I go, but it's because I am a digital hoarder. I like to just like put, especially like with smaller games, I like to put a lot of smaller games on my shit, and then like have 1 or 2 big games that like I kind of rotate in and out.
Yeah. And right now the PlayStation 5 is not as friendly as the Series X is, because you can use an external drive for PlayStation 4 games, but they won't let you store a PS5 game on the external just to like offload it. Like, that's not an option. And also, like, I've heard like a lot of external drives just aren't working very well with it anyway.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah.
Now when I get the Series X, that's going to be a whole different ball game, because like I'm almost all digital on my Xbox One. And I love that feature because it's just like, let me just see what I want to play. And that's how I ended up playing like Final Fantasy IX earlier in the year and stuff like that, right? Because it's like, let's just pop this, let's just fire this up. And with the faster hard drive on the Series X and that quick resume feature that the Xbox has, that'll be a thing where it's like, I definitely want to have as many games installed on the SSD as possible so I can switch freely between them. But
swap between them.
And I also I do have an external for my Xbox One, and apparently all you have to do is unplug it and plug it into the Series X, and that's it. So that's really cool. And I think you can, and on there you can actually offload Series X games onto the external just to like leave them on there. You can't play them from there, but you can at least get them off of your hard drive if you're not using it right away. So you don't have to re-download it. So hopefully Sony gets with the program with that later. And I will say, let me say again, just to reiterate, this was a stupid move on my part to get a system right at launch. It's probably going to blow up on me because that's what happens to me. But you know, I just really wanted, like, especially in this year, I really, like, last year I would have said, like, you know, I'm not ready for next gen, but like when we got into this year, I was like, no, I need next gen to happen. Like, if it got delayed, I would have been mortified.
Right. No. I think it'll be fine, man. You must have faith in these things. That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I'm gonna wait. Right now, there's just like not much of a reason for me to get one, and plus it just seems like such a pain in the ass to attempt to get one, because like, you gotta go through fucking hell and high water just to fucking get a pre-order, then hope you don't get screwed when you get it in your cart. Every story I hear just sounds terrible. I'm just like, I just don't want to mess with it.
Oh yeah,
so like, I'm just gonna wait.
So I've been trying to get a Series X. Because once they announced the all access plan, I was like, well, that's a no brainer for me. I'll just go ahead and get that now. And that's been a shit show because
I believe it.
So when they were doing the pre-orders, like I literally saw people like on like Wario64's Twitter feed where it's like, oh yeah, so I was able to get in and get a pre-order. I'm just practicing for the PlayStation 5. There are a ton of people like that, and it's like, assholes, you're part of the problem of like why this system is getting hammered. Like, you don't even want this system. Like, you're just like trying to see what the experience is like. So that was annoying. The worst part is that I've only seen the series. So there have been far fewer Series X's available than PS5. PS5 has had like every day, like since launch, like they have gone up for sale at different places. They sell out quickly, but every day you've been able to like possibly get a system. Series X, it's been like twice.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I had one in my cart at Target, and then I went to go do the all access application. By the time I filled out the all access thing, because it's a credit application, right? Because it's like a cell phone. Once I submitted that, it had sold out, right? Like you would think they would save it in your cart while you're going through this lengthy application process, but no. So then the same day I got it at Walmart, same thing in my cart, go through the thing, get approved for the all access thing. So I got the ding on my credit report, which sucks because like they went through it. But then the system was gone. And I don't know if like I still have to do that again if I want to do the all access thing. And so there's been a couple times where I just had the full price system in my cart and I was like about to check out and I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to do this. And then I was like, no, just be patient. Just be patient. Like the only reason you were going to get it is because it was going to be $34.99 a month and that's nothing. And there's no reason to really have it right now other than like, I really like, I think the big thing for me is that I am buying Cyberpunk for Xbox One.
Makes sense.
Just because like I think it's going to run better on Xbox One than PlayStation 4. So, cause it would be a PlayStation 4 game that I'm playing on the PS5 anyway, right? So I just have a feeling the Xbox One is going to be a better game. So I was like, well, that'd be really cool to like play that on the Series X, but
that was my thinking. I think I looked at something at one point and then I immediately was like, oh yeah, like I thought I clicked on something at the right time where I was on Twitter and I think Wario64 posted something. I was like, oh, hey, maybe it's there. And I was like, oh no, it's not there. I was like, I'm not even going to bother with this. I just don't care enough right now.
Yeah.
Last question about the PlayStation 5. How do you feel now that it's in your house? How do you feel about how it looks? I'm just curious.
I love it.
Okay.
So here's the thing. The thing is though, is that I actually have it vertical, which is the first time that I have ever done that on a console, because normally I'm like, no, I'm not putting this vertical because I don't like putting the disc in that way. Right? Like I'm always worried that like when I take it out, it's going to fall out of my hand and get scratched.
I remember the one system that I had vertical was the PlayStation 2 because I thought that was the first one that really did that. I was like, oh, it's so cool that I can do this.
You can rotate the symbol so that it's vertical.
Oh yeah, you goddamn right. I rotated that symbol, Julian. It was so awesome. I was like whatever age at that time. And yeah, I thought it was great. But yeah, I haven't done that since then, and I think even at some point in my PlayStation 2 career, I was like, just put it fucking on the side. It's fine.
So,
you'll live.
And I was totally planning on putting it on its side, but everything that I'd heard is that when you put it horizontally, the stand doesn't actually clip securely to the system. So if you need to slide the system around, like a lot of times the stand just like comes off. And I was like, that doesn't sound very stable to me.
That doesn't sound great.
I just have it vertical. If I get the Series X, then I don't know what I'm going to do. I might put the Series X behind the television for now. Because right now I have the PlayStation 5 on top of my subwoofer. And I've been checking for heat. I think it's fine because like you have the base of the PlayStation between the PlayStation and the subwoofer. And I don't think the subwoofer actually gets that warm anyway.
Probably
so
not,
it has seemed fine after like long play sessions, so I think I'm good there. But with the Series X, because I don't want to put that horizontally because I think it looks terrible.
I agree. That one seems like the heat should come out top of it because it seems really cool that it sits like a computer tower to me. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I feel about that.
It seems like the Series X should not be horizontal. Well, and then I do think the PS5, I think it actually does kind of look better vertically, just because like
you've got that
flaring at the top with the panels, and it just kind of, I don't know. Yeah. I really like the look of it.
I want to see one like in person. Like I want, like it's one thing to see it, in a picture or on or whatever, like I've seen that plenty of times, but I want to see one in person just so I can get a full judgment of it, because
it is quite jarring when you just even the box, because it's like, this box is ginormous. And then when you actually get the system, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a big beefy boy. Like I mean, I knew that already, but like, it's a different thing once you actually have it in your hands.
Once you actually have it, exactly. Yeah.
But no, I like it's next to my TV, and I think it looks really cool. And I'm just like,
I believe it.
That's the future. But that's me with all like hardware. It's like I get so excited about it. So, but I will say, like,
you are that
design wise, like some of my favorites of all time have been the PS2, the PS4, and I would say probably the PS5. I think those are some of my favorite designs. And then the Xbox 360, the redesign when they made the smaller
redesign was
one.
pretty good.
Yes,
that's
one of my favorites.
One. Yeah, I agree there. I actually kind of like the fuck man, even I'm fucking these names up now. Xbox One X. Yeah, not Series X. I almost said Series X. I was like, I don't have that.
So here's what I'm going to be doing, and I hope other people adopt this. I'm just going to call them the Xbox Series. Because you don't have to say Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. We understand that there's two systems at this point, and you're probably talking about the X anyway. I'm just going to say this is what I got for the Xbox Series because I think that's what they're. I think that's what they intend anyway. I honestly think that next generation, it's either going to be Xbox Series and then whatever, or it's going to be like Xbox, Xbox Z. Halo X and Xbox Halo S, right? Like maybe the X and the S are the things that continue on from generation to generation.
I think Xbox should start adding like movie titles after their names now. Xbox Series X, this time it's personal.
Xbox Series S, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, Xbox Series X. Fuck you, we do what we want. That's not a good one.
That's not a good one.
No, but it said that's not family friendly enough.
Xbox Series S and the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
I like that. I like that. That's good. We'll settle for that one.
Okay.
Put it on the box.
Maybe that'll be the episode title for this.
That's a pretty good episode title. I like it. They should totally do that. I'd be down for it.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably it. I'm looking forward. So that's one thing is that I really haven't had a really good opportunity to really sink into the PS5 yet. So I'm looking forward to this weekend to being able to do that because this episode is also a shorter one to edit. So that's cool. And then also, like I said, got a long weekend coming up. So I'll probably have Spider-Man done and hopefully platinum Astro by then. And then we'll see. Like I'll probably play Bug Snacks and see. I could see myself saying that that's one of my favorite games of the year or hating it.
I've heard some shit about that game that I just like people playing it and being like, that game is not what I expected it to be.
Yeah, it seems like something that you would dig in a really big way, but I'm not sure.
Here's the thing. I remember watching that game be played. I think Giant Bomb had like an unfinished thing or something, and they were just playing it. And I remember being like, this is not for me.
Okay.
I don't like this Pokemon Snap shit. I hate catching stuff. I find it really boring, but I get why other people would think this is cool. So good luck and God bless. That's all it is. But like hearing about the narrative aspect of it, I'm like, okay,
you might just need to watch this one.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Yeah. I'm kind of like, maybe I'll take a watch of it. Yeah. Watch somebody play through this sometime. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to play. I gotta play a bad game soon for reasons. And I have some ideas for what I'm going to be doing going forward with that, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do it.
Well, I mean, we're about to have a lot of free time on our hands, so that'll be nice. Yeah, I it's not that we don't love doing the show, but it's nice to take those 6. Sometimes it's never a real defined thing. It's usually I'll say like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let's go ahead and say we'll come back like next week, and then we'll go ahead. But it's really just because gives us time to catch up on games. Well, me to catch up on games. Justin plays everything immediately.
Yeah, usually I do.
Yeah. But then also it's just we don't have to be anywhere every 2 weeks. I don't have to spend an entire weekend every 2 weeks editing because last episode was a commitment.
Oh yeah.
To edit.
Editing. Yeah, no, I get it. Editing is man, there's a lot of work that goes into it. Even if you're like me and you just play video games while you do it, it's still
that's unfathomable to me. Like Mike Albertin does that too, and I'm like, what? No, you got to monitor the whole thing.
No, I do. My whole editing policy is like, if I'm playing video games and I don't notice a thing, it's probably fine.
Right.
I notice most of my bullshit in it, but like, and most of the time, because like, as I'm like recording the episode, if I'm going to edit it, I like kind of take mental notes of where certain things happened. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, this is where Sam did this thing. And I remember, yeah, I got to edit this out, and so on and so forth. But like, yeah, like that's been my policy for a while. Like at some point I was like, if I just sit here, I'm getting so bored just sitting here, like looking at these fucking things. Like I gotta start doing something. Like I just turn the TV all the way down and just play something I don't have to think about. So I'm listening really intently. And if I don't notice it while I'm playing video games, that's probably, that's how other people listen to podcasts. They don't sit there and listen to it, intently. So it's probably fine. But my show's not, I care about it, but at the same time, I'm like, if something slips through the cracks, it's fine.
Yeah, I think my thing is that I know this is a problem, like not everybody does this, but like I've gotten to the point where I will edit as many of the ums and likes as I can, because you and I are really bad about likes. Both of us tend to stutter when we're trying to find, it's not an actual stutter, but it's like we'll say like I before we start the thing. So I'll cut as much of that as I can as well.
That's impressive that you can even do it. I gave up like 3 podcasts in at doing that. So I was like, yeah, we're not doing it. Just let it go. This is how I talk. It's fine. I've gotten used to it.
And I know that like when we've released like raw episodes, people are like, yeah, that's fine. It's like, yeah, but it's not fine to me.
It depends on, your own personal thing, man. It's different for everybody.
Definitely.
I totally get it.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Hey, we did it. Under 3 hours. It's been a while.
I believed in us.
Yes, I believed
in us. Yeah.
All right, so once again, for the next stage select, it is our listener AMA, and we have 6 questions. We're going to list them off again real quick in case you forgot, but I will have them in the show post, and then they will also be on Twitter. But the first one that I have is, what is something you've been missing this year during the pandemic that you've taken for granted and can't wait to get back to? I mean, along those lines. I know it's a little wordy. Next, what is a movie or book you just can't live without? And lastly, what is your video game origin story?
And then I have, what's your favorite musical album? And then what would your Transformer name be? And also, what would you transform into? And then I have, how often do you buy new shoes?
Yes.
Very important question.
Very important question.
I have a question. Can they ask us a question? Are they allowed to do that? I don't know.
I wanted this one to be focused on the listeners.
Nobody's allowed to ask us questions. Don't ask us questions. Fuck you.
Not this time, because you ask us questions all the time. But we might actually, if we want, we might actually answer these as we're going, as like personally, or like, listeners' answers might have a springboard into other things. So that's kind of why I want to keep it focused on them. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's probably going to happen.
Right.
I'm the king of tangents.
Exactly.
I know that. So,
and once again, for video game cage match, we have Final Fantasy VI taking on Chrono Trigger, and we're going to want those answers by 8:30 Central Time on December 11th. As always, you can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 190. You can DM us on Twitter at NWPcast, or you can head on over to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpantspodcast and send us a message there. And as always, you can also find each of us on Twitter. Justin?
I'm at Tyrone_Swift, or you can find my other podcast at Clickbait Update.
Yes, and you can find me at Julian. Oh, did you have something else?
I was going to say, I don't know what we're doing for it. No, I don't know what we're doing. I think it's going to be a Thanksgiving episode.
Okay.
Of some weird sort.
Is she coming into town for Thanksgiving, or is not until Christmas?
That's not until Christmas, but we'll see if that happens, because things are weird right now.
Oh yeah, things are getting
uncertain times, so we have no idea.
Yeah. My friend, she was like, yeah, so I, came back we went to Vegas and we did this and this and this, so I'm in a 14-day quarantine. It's like, why did you go do all those things? Why did you touch all those things and be around all those people?
It's weird.
I don't-
Yeah, I mean, if she comes here, she's just being around family and
Yeah,
stuff. But
that's
like
less risk.
But at the same time, like her husband's in the army, so they don't know if they'll let them go.
That's a good
You know
point.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of where they're at
And
right now.
would they be flying?
Hoping
Because
for the best.
that's
No,
okay.
they're driving.
Yeah.
They're driving all the way here.
See, that's a lot easier to do because you can control your interactions with stuff.
I agree.
Because like when when I pump gas, I put on gloves and like
I would not want to fly anywhere. That sounds terrifying.
yes.
I don't like airports before this.
Yeah.
like I especially hate them now. It sounds terrifying.
I just wish that there was I wish I could find that sweet spot where like things are getting better, but like airfare is still super cheap. Like
That'd be nice.
I want that like window, but I know that's not going to happen. So
It's probably never going to happen,
Yeah. it's
unfortunately.
fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode of Nerds Without Pants. For myself and Justin, thanks for listening. Keep it pantsless, internet, and wash your goddamn hands.
Don't go to airports.
And that, don't go to airports. Goodbye.